The story begins in the school where right now, some popular students are making their way through the hall and everyone is stuck seeing them walk. They are so popular that no one dares to approach them directly, and the ones they are seen talking with are considered very lucky. So they are the celebrities of the school despite being the students. Everyone thinks that these two are dating, but no one dares ask them because no one has the guts to. We get to know that the girl, Suzune, is the president of the student council, and Kazuki, the guy, is the vice president. They make their way through the corridor, and every class they pass by, students are forced to stop whatever they are doing and look at them. These two dating or not is the hot topic of the school because they are always seen together, and there is no day where they are seen separate. Wherever you see Kazuki, you see Suzune, and the other way around. Suzune is talking about what they are supposed to do as the members of the student council, and Kazuki assures her that whatever she wants is here in his possession. Nothing can stop them from presenting the true and factual points to back up their argument, and they are surely going to get what they want from the school. Our MC, Usato, is narrating all of this for us, and in his opinion, no one has been successful in eclipsing these two in fame. There have been a lot of people getting fame out of nowhere, but their popularity always dies down, and these two again make their mark to the top. He knows even if these two are dating, no one would mind because they do make a great couple, and no one will deny that ever. If I had this much effect on the school by just walking through the hall, I would be roaming around the school all day making people follow me around like sheep. But we have to face facts and admit that no one likes me. After getting to know about the fame of these two popular and somewhat brilliant students, we see the other side of the coin and we get an introduction to our MC. He is the student for whom you would not even use the word ordinary. If there was a word beyond ordinary, we can assign that to MC, and he is not so famous in the school. He is always forgotten, and no one even remembers sometimes that he is in the school. The normal run-of-the-mill student. We see Usato saying goodbye to some of his friends, and they leave. It is raining quite heavily, so Usato wants to head home before it charges up its second phase. He is about to go in when he sees some birds on the ground helpless. Being the kind guy he is, Usato helps the birds, and this is one of the things he stands out because of. He does things people just ignore and do not think about, like helping these helpless lonely birds. Doing this, he goes inside to the locker room to get his umbrella, but to his surprise and disappointment, someone takes his umbrella. The rain is nowhere near stopping anytime soon, and it is already getting too late for him to be at school now. He takes a look and notices that there is an umbrella in the basket, but he does not know who it is. Trust your intrusive thoughts and take the damn umbrella, my guy. But again, being kind and always looking out for others, he does not take the umbrella. He feels like he cannot just throw his burden on someone else and go home like this. He decides to wait for a bit and wishes something happens and the rain stops. Usato has always dreamed of having an extraordinary and fantastical life, but that just is not going to happen for him. These are the exact times when Usato wishes that he had some superpowers and that he could use some magic to get himself out of these difficult situations. After waiting a while, the rain does not stop, and now the time comes when Usato must freak out observing the situation he finds himself in. He must go home now, but the rain is stronger than before, and he cannot go home without risking getting sick. He is looking at the sky hoping the rain will stop when Suzune comes up to him, asking if he has a good reason to be at the school at this hour. He explains his reasoning, but Suzune knows he has not gone home because he does not have an umbrella on him. Usato knows this as the popular girl in the school, and just talking to her is enough honor for him. She reminds him though that staying late is not endorsed, and he would have to leave soon as is written in the rules of the school. Usato does know the rules, but he also does not want to annoy Suzune, so he wants to get out of her hair as quickly as possible. He lets her know that he can go home like this, and he is about to leave when Kazuki comes up and stops him on his way. He knows Usato somehow, and he tells him that if he does not have an umbrella, he can borrow it for today and return it tomorrow. The thing that shocks Usato though is that this famous student knows his name and he is acting friendly with him. Seeing his confused face, Kazuki knows what Usato is trying to figure out, so he helps him. He tells Usato that he is from his class, and that is how he knows his name. Suddenly it hit Usato that yes, this guy sure was from his class, but still, his offering his umbrella to him is something he expected the very last thing from this guy. He accepts the umbrella and thanks him with a formal tone, but Kazuki wants him to be cool and easy as they are class fellows. Usato loves and is confused about the way he is getting talked to. Kazuki wonders what should he call Usato, from his first name or the last. Usato returns the favor, telling him that Usato is fine if he wants to call him that. Hazuki tells Usato that they should walk home together if only they are the ones left in the school. Suzune also gets into this friendly interaction and lets Usato know that they should walk home together, as it is almost fate that brings them together like this. She would also want to call him Usato if he does not mind. Well girl, take a look at his face and guess if he minds or not. It is like asking if you want the best ice cream or not. Yes, I do. Make it double if possible. They start their journey home together, and the first thing that Usato shares with them is that he finds it very surprising that Kazuki would be this friendly. Kazuki finds this interesting and asks why he thought that. Usato knows they are very popular and the way they are talked about in the school, anyone in their shoes would have had their egos shot to the roof. The thing that surprises him even more is the way Suzune interacts with him. He thought that she would be the hardest to approach, but she feels very chill and easygoing. Suzune hears this for the first time, but Kazuki agrees with Usato. He knows that Suzune is at the top of her class in literally everything. And the plus point is that she is beautiful inside and out. She sure finds this undermining in some way, but Kazuki tells her that she always gives herself less credit than she deserves. This thought of them being very unapproachable does make Kazuki and Suzune a little amazed, but they are not hearing these things the first time. Usato is just spewing out his thoughts and curiosity, and asks them if they are dating or not. This stops both of them on the spot, and with a huge confused tone, they ask him why he thinks that. Why are these popular and overpowered characters this dense? He notices that he just stepped on something very personal that he should not have and tells them that he heard it in the school because this is what everybody talks about. Kazuki and Suzune let him know that they are not dating. The reason they are always together is because they are the members of the student council, that is all. Well, this disappoints Usato, but he figured this would be the case. Suzune sure took his question as a compliment though, because this is a lot better than talking behind their backs and assuming things that are not close to being true. They continue their way back home, but this time, Suzune has something she wants to ask Usato. She wants to know if he has thought about what he is going to do after he gets out of school. Usato is a little surprised by this question, but he has not thought about it. Kazuki points out that she asked the same question to him as well a little while ago. Suzune shares that she is interested in getting to know other people's plans for life after school because she has no idea. Every goal she sets, she achieves it in no time, and this leaves her very confused about her life after graduation. This concerns Kazuki because he never thought that of all people, Suzune would be the one confused about this thing. Usato is forced to wonder if this is how competent people think about their lives. Suzune adds that she finds this life very boring and sometimes she feels like she does not belong here. Usato and Suzune are not alike, but for some reason, Usato understands what she meant by this. He knows that exact feeling she feels. They are walking when Kazuki stops and looks confused. Usato asks him if something is wrong, and he asks Usato if he also hears that. Usato does not hear anything, but Kazuki tells him that he is hearing some kind of bell ringing. Suzune also starts hearing it and points out that it is getting louder and louder by the second. Our MC is left alone once again. A huge portal suddenly opens up beneath them, and this makes Usato wonder if this is a portal to another dimension or something like that. Hearing this, Suzune asks him if there are monsters and magic in that other world or not. Usato finds it very unlike Suzune, who would be excited about that stuff. Her knowing this stuff only makes her image in Usato's mind a lot more beautiful. They feel a rush running through their body, and they vanish with the portal, leaving their umbrella behind. Kazuki wakes up Usato and he gets up, bewildered by what just happened to them. We see that our gang is at some kind of a castle, and right now, they are in the hall of the castle with the king and relevant people present as well. Usato wakes up wondering where they are, but Kazuki and Suzune have no clue either. The king sitting on his throne lets them know that he knows how they are feeling right now. He apologizes to them for making this happen, but he wants them to know that they did not have any other choice. Kazuki is mad and wants the king to explain everything right now. Seeing how he is talking to the king's vassal explodes, saying how dare he talk to his majesty like that, but the king calms him down. King introduces himself. He is the king of the Lynch Kingdom and his name is King Layod. Suzune cannot control her emotions, seeing that this is an actual king and not some fake actor pretending to be one. Her reaction surprises Usato a lot, but he focuses on the matter at hand for now. Lloyd continues and tells them that there is a demon lord, and he invaded their kingdom, once with his force, but the king emerged victorious after he fought back and sent away the demon lord and his entire force. The thing that concerns him is that the demon lord is much stronger than before now, and there is no saying what will happen if he decides to attack again. For this matter, the king needed some accomplished people such as them from other worlds so they could help them win this battle with the demon lord. Forget about the war and the battle. Suzune is melting over the fact that there is an actual demon lord in this world. Usato tries restraining her, saying that they are having a serious conversation right now, but this is out of her control now. Anyways, King lets them know that they were brought here through a ritual called the hero summoning, and he would love it if they helped him fight this demon lord. Kazuki does not need any of this and tells the king that they have families behind in their world and they cannot just leave them like this. Saying this, he orders the king that he has to send them back right now because they are not summoned here with their consent. King tells him that he cannot do that because the ritual works in one direction and he cannot use it to send them back. Kazuki is furious hearing this and tells the king that he has to do something. Agitated, Kazuki takes a step forward toward the king and all of the soldiers get ready to take him out. Usato gets up and appreciates his anger for them, but he wants Kazuki to know that starting a fight here is not a solution. Kazuki is very angry, but he needs to calm down. He relaxes and the king comes forward, kneeling in front of them. He begs for their help and he promises that he will find a way to send them back in the near future. The heroes accept, but Suzune has a question for the king. She knows that they are here to help him in some way, but why is he calling them the heroes? He does not know anything about them for now. Welsie, the girl who performed the ritual, comes forward and tells her that the summoning brings the people who are accomplished and are capable of things that no one is. She lets them know that before coming here, they heard some bells ringing, and that was the indication that they were the heroes. They understand, but it also reveals one thing, that Usato was not supposed to be here. He got dragged into this just because he was with them. He did not hear any bells ringing. This is a point to be concerned about, but Usato knows that he cannot undo what happened now. They are in a room where Welsie is about to measure their magical abilities using this crystal ball. Wasn't the crystal ball used for future telling and all that? These anines have really changed this concept for good. Suzune cannot help but feel very excited about her magical ability being measured. Kazuki, on the other hand, asks Usato if he is comfortable being here. Him being dragged into this must be making him very angry, but Usato is not. He knows getting angry for this is no use and he must be positive like Suzune. He knows that he will find something to do here now that he is stuck here. Kazuki agrees with him, but they are looking forward to their abilities being measured. They really hope they are of some use, especially Usato. Welsie wants Suzune to come forth first and put her hand on the crystal ball. She does, and the ball starts shining bright yellow. Welsie explains that this yellow light indicates thunder magic, and this cannot be perfect for Suzune. Kazuki is up next and he comes, putting his hand on the crystal. The ball lights white for him, and upon asking, Welsie tells him that this is the light magic. Suzune knows about this and tells him that he can use it to shoot lasers and make light swords out of it. Usato knows that Kazuki does not understand anything she just said, but oh well. Well, was it worth getting roasted by a girl for no reason? Up next is Usato, and he is interested in knowing what kind of magical power he has, even if he has some. He puts his hand on the crystal and it lights green for him. He and the gang are excited to see a new color, and they turn to ask Welsie about it. But they look and see that Welsie is scared out of her mind, shaking like crazy. She has to tell the king about it, and saying this, she grabs Usato and runs to the main hall toward the king. Going there, seeing Welsie painting makes the king curious, and she tells him that the power Usato showed is what he has to know. He sarcastically asks her if he got some dark magic or stuff like that, but his laughing face turns to a sweating, shocked face right when she tells him that the crystal turned green. He cannot believe that he has that power, but Usato has no idea what they are so afraid of. He figures that his power is dangerous or something, but no one is telling him. King asks if there is any safe place for him or not. He wants Usato out of the castle right away, but we see some girl walking through the corridor of the castle, making her way to the main hall right now. Welsie asks the king if there is someone else with the same kind of magic as Usato, and there is. The girl comes in, opening the door very dramatically. This is the girl with the same power as our Usato here, and this could not be worse timing in King's opinion. She comes in and then King looks really terrified of her being here. King thought her day was off today, but she is still here. Her name is Rose, and she is the captain of the kingdom's rescue team. She looks at Usato and asks the king about him. He avoids any difficulties, saying that he is not one of the heroes but just an ordinary human being. Wellesley tells Rose that heroes are in the other room and she would love to take her to them. She is leaving with Wellesley when Usato asks the king about his magic, as they have not told him still. Asking this, he says that he knows the crystal turned green, and Rose hears this, stopping on her way out. Everyone knows that they are screwed, and King tells Wellesley to get Usato away from her. She uses her magic and takes Usato out of the castle in a bubble-type thing. She takes him up in the sky, but Rose manages to get to him in time. She punches him to the ground and takes him away from the castle. In the crystal room, Suzune and Kazuki get to know that Usato was just taken away by Rose, but they do not seem to find an issue with that, knowing that Rose is the healing magic user. Wellesley explains that healing magic users are very rare and Rose is one of them. She has been looking for another one, and now she has one. She is going to train him now to become her subordinate. She takes Usato home and introduces him to her subordinates. They greet him very terrifyingly, but Rose kicks one away, saying that they are going to scare the newbie. They tell her that this is the way they greet someone, and they are being very nice. I don't think they know what nice means. Usato is going to be trained by Rose herself, and the subordinates tell Usato that her training is nothing less than hell itself. He goes to the room to sleep, as this is his home. Rose, on the other hand, wonders how this kid is going to respond, as he is a healing magic user from another world. In a world of wonders, we see an elite city that is protected by the walls from Titan or I don't know. And like every other elite city, there is this small hut that is mostly located at the border. Thus, our hero who lives in the forest seems traumatized, since he was hoping it was all a dream, but it looks like he is really in another world. Meanwhile, another guy is sleeping in his room while snoring. His snores are composing a symphony of questionable talent. On the other hand, some other fellows are coming to meet the guy. Therefore, a man who was cooking calls the guy and informs him that some fellows have come to meet him. The guy then comes outside to meet them. It appears a guy with red hair and a girl with black hair comes to meet him. They are also wearing the uniform of an academy. Seemingly they are worried for Usato, since they heard that the guy was abducted. Usato apologizes to them for making them worry. He even jokes about it, that he is alive, but suddenly he remembers the incident with the green-haired girl. Funnily, he doesn't have a good impression of her, since the girl kicked the hell out of him. So now Usato is sad that he is supposed to start the training from hell today, so he can't say how tomorrow will go for him. Seeing his reaction, his friend asks him if it's really that bad. Whereas, the girl notices that the guy intends to go through with his training. Hence, Usato informs them that he wants to do it since he has nothing better to do. And also, he would like to be of some use. The girl then motivates the guy, saying they know he can do this. Afterwards, she determinedly tells him about their training, which will begin today as well. Then, she encourages him to do his best. Meanwhile, Haruko is watching them from afar, when suddenly a group of other guys come to him and happily offer him a tomato. Whereas, Usato is wondering what kind of cool training their heroes get to do. The guy even compliments the girl on her uniform, saying that it's looking pretty awesome. The girl seems happy with his compliment. Suddenly, the red-haired guy becomes serious and holds Usato's shoulder. He then thanks him and seriously informs that he has finally made up his mind. Although Usato seems confused, the guy then tilts his head towards the girl and calls her senpai. Hence, he tells her that he is going to do his best in this world. The girl also seems determined to do the same. After that, the guy and the girl go away from there with Haruko. Apparently, Haruko is carrying a fruit basket. Thus, he happily informs them that he has received some gifts. Meanwhile, Usato is watching them from afar. It seems he knows that Kazuki is going through a lot, since he was suddenly brought to another world and told that he was a hero. And the same happened with the Inukami senpai too. Therefore, he thinks that she must be going through the same. However, at that moment, the girl waves at him happily. Seeing her happy, he realizes that she is probably fine. Although the guy is determined to become strong enough to support them someday. Out of nowhere, a green-haired girl makes her entry, and judging by Usato's expression, it doesn't look like they had a great past. Because boy, he was so not ready to see her. Seemingly, the girl asks him if the heroes already left, and did he enjoy his chat with them. Usato seems afraid of her, as he replies that he did enjoy his time. The guy is looking like he will shit in his pants. After that, he bows in front of her to show her respect. Hence, Rose tells him that it's not a prison, so he is free to see whomever he wishes. However, there is a twist in it that he can only do this whenever he is not training. Seems like the guy is really afraid of her, as he agreed with her without missing a beat. Surprisingly, Rose throws a book at him, which the boy catches on time. She then tells him that it's a journal, where he should record his daily training regimen and how he feels about it, because it will be beneficial for him. After that, she tells him that they will start their training after breakfast. The girl then leaves from there. Meanwhile, the guy realizes that his training from hell has finally started. After some time, Usato is outside training with Rose. Right now, he is doing meditation, and apparently, he is thinking about his friend's warning that this training would be hell, but the guy feels that it is easier than he had expected. Dude, people who celebrate early are more likely to face disaster. Anyways, the girl asks if he is feeling anything. The thing is, the guy is holding both of his hands on his chest, and he is feeling some kind of warmth right there. Thus, Rose informs him that it's mana, and the next thing he needs to work on is drawing that out of his body. Usato doesn't understand how he will draw it out of his body. However, the girl reassures him that he will understand soon enough. So right now, he just needs to focus on sensing the energy. The guy then resumes his practice. After a while, Rose tells him to read a book. Nonetheless, the guy starts panicking because he can't read the language of this world. Thus, Rose ignores his complaints and tells him to just open the book. Usato seems doubtful, but because of the girl's command, he opens the book anyway. Surprisingly, Usato finds that he can read the book. Therefore, the girl reveals she heard that summoned heroes automatically have translation magic cast on them. Funnily, the guy thinks that the girl could have told him this sooner. Afterwards, Rose points at the map and shows him the Linger Kingdom along with Demon Territory. There, Usato notices they are both right next to each other's territory. Hence, the girl agrees with him and tells him that this is the reason why their kingdom has always become the demon's first target. Therefore, the girl advises him to read that book because it has basic information about the nations, different races, and demons of this world. The guy then starts reading the book. Meanwhile, Rose goes from there to give him privacy. After that, the boy feels that if this is what the training is, then he should be able to handle it. Day 2 of training comes and it appears he has to run a lot today. Funnily, the guy is questioning his life decisions while running, since he didn't expect this from his magic training. Day 3 comes and even today he has running training. Apparently, he was forced to run until his muscles were so sore that he couldn't move. Afterwards, he becomes tired from running, so he stops for a moment. But funnily, Rose appears next to the guy and scolds him about why he has stopped. Hence, Usato scaredly tells her that he can't go on because his legs are done for. Surprisingly, Rose slaps hard Usato's legs and the green light comes out of her hand. The guy starts crying like a baby and he feels that the pain is multiplied cause he is already hurt. However, suddenly he realizes something and stops his tantrums. After that, he touches his legs and feels that the pain is gone. Rose then informs him that she has healed his sore muscles. I also want her this magic for my sore body. Funnily, Usato gets surprised about the fact that she can do this magic. Meanwhile, Rose scolds him to get back to running and even calls him a piece of trash. He's getting scolded worse than a child. The boy looks horrified that she calls him trash, yet he still stands up to run. It seems like she is going to kill him today. Funnily, Rose tells him to run like he is going to die, since she will revive him if he does die. Hearing this, the guy feels that doesn't even make sense. However, Usato knows he can't say that out loud, so he decides to write this in his journal. Surprisingly, Usato has run for so long that even his shoes get torn. The 4th day comes and the guy has started training with other members. Therefore, the guy is running with them, but sadly everyone passes by him and leaves him behind. The other guys even mock him for his slow pace. Meanwhile, Rose scolds him for being a lap behind and even calls him a little bug. Usato is getting frustrated about this whole situation. He also wants to talk back, but funnily, he again decides to write this in his journal. Day 5 comes, and Usato again runs all day. Even in the rain, the guy is doing his training. Rose notices that the guy is slowing down, so she tells him to speed up. After a moment, Usato's foot suddenly slips and he falls in the mud. Funnily, he looks very pissed at the girl that he even calls her cold-hearted. Therefore, Usato decides to write about her in his journal. Apparently, he is breathing heavily from the exhaustion. Surprisingly, the guy notices that the green light is coming out of his hand. He thinks that maybe it's the light of healing magic. However, he questions whether he really needs it. All this time, Rose has been watching him from afar. The 7th day comes and funnily, Rose is kicking the guy's ass like a football. Even the boy realizes that he had never gotten his ass kicked like this before. Apparently, the 7th day Usato ran again, until he thought he would die. After that, the girl kicked his ass, while the guy is still in the fright of the kick. The girl comes to him and tells him that since he has pissed her off, she is raising the level of difficulty. The guy gets scared and thinks maybe she found out that he was dissing her in his journal. However, he remembers that she can't read Japanese. Surprisingly, Rose picks up the guy and throws him again like a ball. Thus, she tells him to start running. Funnily, Usato has promised to call her a vicious muscle-bound gorilla in his journal. The 8th day comes and the boy doesn't learn, since he again gets kicked by the girl. After that, the 9th day comes. It seems that Usato still doesn't learn, since is getting kicked hard by the girl. Apparently, on the 9th day, the boy thinks that a few days ago, he questioned the need for healing light, but now he feels that he is gonna die and his ass is also gonna die. Surprisingly, Usato notices that his whole body's pain has gone and green healing magic light is coming out of his hands. The guy then realizes that he was wrong about healing magic, because he really needs it. Day 10 comes, and now that Usato can manifest healing magic on demand, he doesn't get tired no matter how much he runs. But the guy feels like he is getting uneasy, because all he is doing is running around every day. That's why he is worried about whether he will really be able to help Kazuki and Inukami. Furthermore, the guy is sure that M's Rose would deck him if he voiced his concerns. To his bad luck, Rose yells at him to do 30 more laps. Funnily, Usato decides to not call her M's Rose anymore, because he feels like she doesn't deserve any more than just Rose. After that, Usato angrily looks at the girl and thinks that he just has to finish his training for now, because after that, he will rip Rose a new one. Yude is all bark and no bite. After that, he continues his running. Fast forward to day 11. Apparently, there is a new addition to the training regimen today. Usato is doing push-ups, and surprisingly, he has done 815 push-ups. Yet he is still doing more, and it appears the healing magic is coming out of his whole body. Suddenly, Rose asks the guy if a bald guy tells him that he has eaten his lunch, because he thought somebody left it. Afterwards, he apologizes to him for that, but Usato is looking very pissed at him. The guy finally bursts as he throws his water glass at the bald guy. Meanwhile, the bald guy tries to make him calm down and says to him that fighting is banned in the rescue team. However, Usato ignores his warning and launches at him to punch him. After that, they fight with each other. Funnily, the bald guy runs outside to get away from Usato, but the guy is looking too angry right now. He even follows the bald guy to punch him more. When Usato was running after the guy to kick him, he realizes that he gets used to weights right away and he feels like he is actually getting the hang of the things. On the other hand, Rose is watching him from afar and it seems like the guy has been tricked. Funnily, Usato also realizes that maybe he has been brainwashed. A week later, Kazuki, Inukami, and a yellow-haired girl come to visit Usato. Therefore, another guy takes them to Usato. After reaching the forest, the guy signals at Usato's direction and tells him that he is over there. Kazuki and Inukami become shocked seeing Usato. Apparently, the guy is doing push-ups by carrying a heavy rock on his back, and even the girl is sitting on top of the rock. However, Rose is taunting him that he is slowing down again like a caterpillar. Thus, she scolds him to not whine about something this easy. Afterwards, Usato arrogantly replies to her, "Who the hell is whining here?" The guy even mocks her by clicking his tongue at her. Seeing that, she asks him if he has just clicked his tongue at her. The boy teases her that she is so light that he can't help himself. After that, Rose jumps down from the rock and stands in front of the guy. Surprisingly, this crazy girl adds another heavy rock on the poor guy's back. However, he holds them bravely and even his healing power starts coming out of his whole body. The girl finally looks happy with Usato. Meanwhile, his friends can't believe that he is really his friend. Funnily, Inukami notices the guy's biceps and she starts drooling for his muscles. Whereas Kazuki feels that this training is brutal. Suddenly, a man with yellow hair goes angrily to the girl and holds her by her collar. He then asks her what in the world she is doing. Hence, he lectures her that she is destroying a young man with a bright future. The girl tells him to let her go and she even calls him an old man Sigless. After that, she tells him his mighty ideas are impressive, but she has her own way of doing things. Surprisingly, she informs him that Usato is going to become her right-hand man, and it will be a real problem if he can't even handle this much. This man looks pissed at her. Meanwhile, Usato becomes stunned knowing that she wants him to be her right-hand man. Rose praises Usato that he is a real find, and she loves how he can't stand to lose. The way he never gives up is even better. And top of all this, she is impressed that he is able to survive her training. Funnily, Usato can't believe that in the end, he's the one getting screwed, even though he just wanted to flex a thing or two. But now it's backfired on him. Rose then orders the guy to take a break and get some lunch. Also, she tells him to go catch up with his friend. After that, the man requests Kazuki and Inukami to take care of Princess Cilia, because he can't come with them, since he has to speak with Rose. Hence, Kazuki assures him that he understood. Afterwards, Kazuki tells Usato to come with them. Hence, they all go from there. Meanwhile, the man tells Rose that he knew she was a deviant, since he was ordered to re-enlist her, but he didn't accept her transfer. The girl informs him that it's not happening either way, because her right eye is totally useless. The man gets angry and shouts at her to stop talking nonsense. On the other hand, Usato is with his friends, and apparently they tell him that the man with yellow hair commands the Linger Kingdom's army, and he is the Commander Siglis, the strongest knight in the kingdom. It appears he is teaching Inukami and Kazuki sword fighting. Usato seems impressed by the man. However, he then notices the yellow-haired girl, thus he asks them who she is. The girl then gracefully introduces herself that she is Cilia Volgast Olinger. Hearing her last time, Usato realizes that the girl is the king's daughter, so he becomes aware of the fact that she is a princess. The guy funnily jumps from there and bows down in front of her. He then apologizes to her for his uncouth conduct. Dude is a bigger drama queen than any girl, hence the girl assures him that it's fine and there is no need to be formal with her. Usato seems confused by her reply, therefore he asks him if it's really fine with her. Cilia replies that she would like this much more. Afterwards, Inukami tells the guy that he is acting just like Kazuki did in the beginning. Funnily, Kazuki becomes embarrassed and he tells the girl to stop it. Surprisingly, Cilia has bought a snack for everyone, so she tells them to enjoy it. They all become happy seeing the food. After that, they start eating it. Usato seems to like the food, as he even compliments the girl. Kazuki then looks at Usato and asks him if he's training like that every day. Funnily, the guy gives them a shock by revealing that today's training was pretty light. However, he asks them about how things are going on their end. Therefore, Kazuki answers him that their training itself is pretty difficult, but Commander Siglis and Ms. Welsi always considers their health and well-being, while teaching them how to use their swords and magic. Seemingly, Usato tells him that's how it should be. He then starts to complain about his sensei, and tells him that Ms. Rose is really brutal. Surprisingly, Kazuki apologizes to him. Therefore, the guy asks him why he is apologizing. However, the boy goes to take food first, and as he moves, his biceps flex. Seeing the boy's muscles as he is taking food, the girl can't control herself for a peek of what's inside that shirt. Thus, the hentai girl lifts his shirt up and sees then 6 packs. No shit, she starts drooling with the intention to feel them. The rest becomes history judging by the blonde girl's reaction. The guy then tries to distract her by asking Kazuki what he wanted to say earlier. Hence, Kazuki asks him if it isn't tough for him. Usato looks at his friend sweetly and confesses that it's crazy tough, since in the beginning he kept wanting to run away. Thus, Kazuki gets curious and asks him if he feels any different now. Surprisingly, Usato tells him that Ms. Rose is scary, but he doesn't want to run away anymore, because now he is having fun training with his fellows and Ms. Rose, so he feels life isn't that bad. Hearing this, Inukami tells him that he is amazing, because he has already found his place. However, the guy doesn't feel comfortable taking the compliment. Hence, he tells her that he is not amazing, he is just stubborn. At that moment, Usato shows them their healing magic and tells them that the two of them are going to fight as heroes someday. So he also wants to be able to do something. After a moment, Inukami excitedly tells him that now she can count on him to come and save her if she ever gets in trouble. Funnily, Usato teases her that he will do it when she talks like a normal girl. Inukami doesn't look happy with the comment. After that, they enjoyed their time with each other. Suddenly, the bald guy interrupts them and calls Usato. He then happily tells Usato that he was kind enough to bring in some lunch. Hence, Usato gets angry at the guy for talking to him like he is doing a favor for him. Funnily, it seems like Usato still hasn't forgiven him for stealing his food. That's why he is looking pissed at him. Meanwhile, the bald guy is looking scared of Usato, as he says to him if he is a kid who is still holding the grudge of the past. Thus, Usato angrily taunts him that he doesn't want to hear this from the guy who stole that kid's lunch. At that moment, Usato goes forward to attack him. Meanwhile, the bald guy also tells that he will also beat the crap out of him today. since the boss isn't around here. After that, they both start fighting with each other like crazy. On the other hand, the guy's friends are looking at them from afar. Cilia gets worried about them. However, Kazuki tells her that it's fine, because he thinks that this is just part of Usato's daily life. Inukami also thinks the same and feels like the guy is living here each day as freely as himself. Suddenly, Kazuki announces that he is feeling a bit restless, so he is going back to the castle to train. Thus, the girls stop him and tell him that they also go with him. Inukami then looks at Usato, and it appears she believes there is a reason the three of them were summoned in this world together. After that, they go from there. Fast forward to the nighttime. Usato is relaxing in a hot water tub and thinking that it was great to see his friends. Funnily, the guy kind of freaks out about Inukami's behavior regarding his body. However, he feels that what she has said was true. His body really has changed and he has gotten a lot faster too. The guy feels that he has been healing his muscles over and over again after they are damaged by brutal training, and that is the result. His body has changed. Except he has to run to save the injured on the battlefield. Apparently, the guy is doubting his ability to do that, because he feels that maybe he doesn't have the mental fortitude to match the body he has built. The next day comes and the guy is eating his food, when suddenly, Rose comes there and throws the bag at the guy's face. She then orders him that they are going out today. The other guys around him seem worried about the guy, as they think that the time has finally come. After a while, Rose is standing in front of a guard. Funnily, the guard is looking scared of the girl, as he scaredly asks her what she's doing there. Thus, the girl informs him that she wants to show her subordinate the outside world. The guy then scaredly goes away to open the gate. Seeing her powerful aura on people, Usato realizes that the girl just has to stand there to scare someone. Afterwards, they go outside of the city. While they are walking, Usato asks the girl where are they going. Funnily, the girl tells him to shut up and follow her. After some time, they finally reach the cliff. The girl informs him the forest down there is also known as the Darkness of Linger, and it's infamously teeming with monsters. Surprisingly, Rose orders the guy to go down there and tells him to not come back until he hunts down a grand grizzly. Usato starts panicking because blue grizzlies only turn into grand grizzlies after living 100 years, and it appears they are really dangerous. However, the girl didn't get fazed by his panicking, as she tells him that he should be able to take one down easily. Funnily, the guy reminds her that all he has done is to run, so he doesn't know how to fight. Surprisingly, Rose lifts the guy easily with his backpack. Meanwhile, Usato is trying to free himself. However, Rose suddenly throws the guy like a football into the forest. The following day, the sun is shining brightly in the sky, with smudges of clouds on the side. Two travelers are standing on the edge of a valley that is wrapped in greenery altogether, with a river running along. While looking over the vicinity of this place, one of them declares it to be the forest, known as the Darkness of Linger. The valley stretched vastly before them, lush and inviting, sending off a strange attraction to them. Furthermore, she sheds light on the fact that this place is infamously crowded with monsters. Rose, the greenhead hottie, commands Usato not to step his foot back until he guts down a grand grizzly. Usato gets a shiver down his spine after realizing what Rose just spit out of her mouth. This guy, Usato, sure looks like one hell of a ragged doll with a flimsy haircut of his. Probably, the guy's just started regretting signing up for this wild adventure brought to him by Rose. He requests her to calm down and let him catch a breath. All of a sudden, Rose grabs his crappy bag and lifts him in the air so easily, like he is some clothes over the hanger. Desperately, he tries to break off from her, asking her to put him down. Suddenly, Rose swirls him in and winds him up to the infamous forest while ignoring his nagging about what an old hag she is. A star glimmers in the sky as soon as Ustaya reaches the sky height. As he inches towards the ground, his face is already stretched to a hideous, top-tier comical distortion. Panicking to the greatest degree as he gets closer to the ground, he thinks he is going to fall into his grave at this rate. Getting closer to the ground, he imagines how his death will reach everyone. A pitiful subordinate, Usato Ken, gets thrown by the rescue team captain, Rose, and ends up dead in the Darkness of Linger. Then he says that his life is not a joke, but a sudden green light envelopes his body and glows through his skin. Looks like this guy thinks the Wakanda Forever pose is gonna give his ass enough strength to bear this fall. Oh wait, it did. Usato Ken finally finds the courage to use his magic under his control. With green light glowing through him, he suddenly flips himself in the air and lands with his hands touching the ground first. He takes a long sigh of relief while sitting on top of his grassy graffiti. Then he thanks God for his safe landing. Anyone would speed dial the god for a quick check-in if a green hottie tosses you like a seed in a watermelon. Afterward, he heals his hands himself while looking over to see where he is. Now that he is here in the forest, he thinks that it would be risky to go back. He then admits that it is better to stay here and do as Rose ordered him. A sudden vision of a grizzly bear sends chills down his spine, but he shakes it off. Moreover, he is excited to hunt a grizzly bear in this forest. Furthermore, he tries his best to make himself feel as if this job is for the rookies who don't come close to his feet. Plus, for him, it is just a 2-meter-tall grizzly bear, which he thinks will be a cupcake ride to Disneyland. Upon ending his words, he hears a growl behind him in the bushes. A few seconds later, he screams at a growling white bear, and then both of them scream together at each other. So this is happening in the land of the darkness of Linger, where monsters are crowding so high. Running like Usain Bolt, he screams over his lungs while trying to get away from the white grizzly bear. Horror grows thicker on his face as he sees the bear chasing him for his flesh and bones. Not only that, he finds the bear way bigger than he pictured. Also, his claws and fangs are way more huge than he imagined. Although he thinks he has confidence in his speed, he will sweep away from the bear's gaze. However, he asks himself if the grizzly bear is capable of matching his running speed. But suddenly, the bear does a peekaboo from the sidelines, scaring the hell out of Usato. So he gets the idea that the bear is right on his steps, almost reaching enough to grab his collar and rip him in shreds. In this heated moment, he recalls the time when Rose was tossing him around like he was some kind of ball. He remembers Rose training him for this very moment before him. So he pushes himself to think and figure out a way to live through it. This is why he survived all the hellish training she put him through all this time. From running to lifting heavy-weighted blocks, he believes this ugly thing is nothing compared to Rose. All of a sudden, he shifts his body gear from running to turning around and facing that ugly grizzly. Further, he calls upon that big teddy bear to come and face him one-on-one. As words reach his mouth, he notices 2 more monsters running behind the big grizzly. Usato Ken is shocked enough that he becomes a statue, ready to be tossed around again when the bears decide to gang up on him. With that, he declares that ganging up on someone alone is cowardice. Then he notices 2 blue grizzlies are joining this flesh-eating party. Sweat washes down his body as he continues to struggle and run in a deep forest alone. While running, his ear hears a waterfall nearby, and he spots the light directing him outside. Rushing towards the light, he jumps in the air while accepting his fate. He chooses to die in the water rather than ripping himself in shreds by some bears. With gritted teeth, grizzly bears watch him jump down the waterfall and get away from them. Furthermore, he is rolling like a ball in the river and soon finds enough pressure to swim back to the surface. Later, as the sun is setting, he hangs his wet clothes over a tree branch and curses his luck of the day. Putting his knife inside a knife case, he believes he has only emergency rations, a canteen, and a knife. After noticing that this is all he has in the bag packed by Rose, he wishes that she could have added something to start a fire with. Moreover, trying to take a bite out of bread, he asks himself if that woman could be a demon in disguise or an ogre. While eating bread and drinking water during the sunset, it has been a rough day for Usato Ken. Thinking about why he has come this far, he remembers his orders from Rose to hunt down a grizzly bear, which he believes is an impossible task. Hearing a growl from deep down in the forest, he gulps water in and decides to take care of this tomorrow. Then he marks his achievement of the day on the tree beside him, showing that he has survived his first day. Then the side glows green where he was sitting. The next day in the morning, the birds are chirping in the Valley of Darkness. Usato on some tree is putting an initial T over their surface with his knife. He jumps from the tree then, landing on the ground with a determined mindset to hunt the grizzly today, once and for all. Putting his knife back in his case, set on his waist, he proceeds to walk down the path of the forest, marking his initials as he goes by. Moreover, he states that he has got to learn more about his enemies in order to pre-plan their funerals. At first, he believes he needs to figure out where their hideout is. After marking every tree, he is cutting some leafy strips over the surface as if cooking up some trap. While this is going on, he breaks out in a sweat, drinks some water, and notices what he thinks are bear scratches on a tree. He asks himself if the grizzlies could be somewhere near him. All of a sudden, he hears someone in the bush rustling the leaves. It spooks the heck out of Usato, and he clenches his knife, prepared to chop whatever it is there. Ready in the battle position with a fixed gaze, he finds himself embarrassed when a cute bunny comes out of the bushes. The knuckle-headed loser thinks that the bunny could be a monster. A few moments later, the bunny crawls to Usato as if he is having a hard time to even beg, and Usato asks him if he is hurt. The bunny responds with a nod that he is hurt, so Usato is bewildered to know that a tiny bunny can understand him. Therefore, he heals the bunny's limb with his healing magic. With a green glow over the bunny's limb, he has received the best treatment from the healing magic user, Usato Ken. After he is done healing, he rubs the bunny's cheeks and asks him to be careful again and try not to get hurt again. All of a sudden, he stands up and walks to hide behind a tree as if he is sensing something. Noticing that the bunny is following him around, he commands the bunny not to follow him. Furthermore, he mentions to him that he is searching for some spooky monsters right now, so he has to go hide somewhere. Moreover, he tries to convey that it will be dangerous for a little bunny to be caught in the midst of a grizzly bear fight. Nothing can make this tiny thing understand anything other than this knuckle-headed loser is his savior mommy. The bunny is still following him despite the fact that he asks him not to. After playing the follow me around game, he then realizes that maybe this bunny is telling him that he knows where the grizzly is. So he asks him if he knows the whereabouts of the grand grizzly. Soon, the bunny's long antenna ears jerked and he runs in a different direction as if to look for something. Going a bit further, he looks at Usato as if hinting him to follow him behind. He then follows him around the forest as he hops and hopes trying to take him to the grand grizzly. Bingo, realizing how helping a tiny bunny pays him a lot, he finds himself beside the nest of a grizzly bear. All of the grizzlies are sleeping like growling babies beside their tunnel. He then spots the cave as their hidden den. Further, he believes that he needs to monitor this situation without being found. Hiding far away in the bushes, he notices that they are sleeping like a family. Recalling back, he remembers that the grand grizzlies live in groups and he has seen them like this for the very first time. All of a sudden, the bunny hugs Usato's face and he pats him. As time goes by, he sits beside the river and fills up his water bottle. While filling up, he is worried about how long he is going to drink water that has not been boiled at all. Drinking water from his hand, he then realizes that he has no choice when he is stuck here. Then the bunny comes closer to his thigh and Usato spots him in shock that he has not left still. The bunny then hops on his shoulder and the guy calls him a weird little bunny. Moreover, he mentions that he is still monitoring them. Far away, the grizzly is blowing his nose bubbles while being in the deepest sleep. After noticing them for so long, he finds nothing out of the ordinary. But unfortunately, he finds himself feeling soft toward the blue grizzlies who are kind of cute. And then he looks over at the bunny and tells himself that this bunny is sort of cute as well. Moreover, he believes that he is living a pretty good life here. Still, after marking the initials over the tree, he is holding his stomach hard while lying under the tree, trying to figure out which is it that caused the stomach ache so brutally. Laying with tucked legs, he tries to use his healing magic to fix this issue. But unfortunately, his own healing magic does not affect the stomach in any way. He believes that he could be poisoned after all. Clenching his eyes shut, he believes there might be a cure to fix this terrible stomach ache. Quickly, the bunny rushes in to comfort the guy when he asks him why he is here again. He then pats his head and tells him that he is glad to see him alive though. Another day begins when the bunny shows him a small lake among the forest trees. Looking at the bunny, he wonders if the water is safe in this, so he asks him. Hence, he does think that this water seems clearer than the river water he drank before, so he sits down to drink it and finds it so delicious that he thanks the bunny on the spot. However, the bunny is not looking at him and shivering with fear. He asks the bunny what is wrong with him. His gaze fell above the tree where the bunny sits. While that is happening, he follows and climbs over the top to look around. Then he asks the bunny if some monster is hiding here. Seeing the bunny shiver so much, especially when he did not even pass any look in front of grand grizzlies, Usato worries about what is lurking down there. He then hears leaves rustling down there. All of a sudden, his eyes grow wide when he tries to make out what it is he is looking at. A purple snake is dragging its body throughout in the form of loops. He asks what the hell this thing could be, and he remembers there was nothing he read about it. But still, he believes he is feeling that this thing is dangerous far more than a grand grizzly. Moreover, as his red bulgy eyes look for prey, Usato notices that bloodlust oozing out from every inch of their body. He expresses that he does not plan to go anywhere near that. As soon as the snake monster leaves their sight, he catches his dying breath. So today will be the 4th day since he has laid eyes upon the giant snake monster, and he reports that he has not been able to let that uneasy feeling go from his inside, but he did not give up on observing the grand grizzly. Hiding in the bushes, he is still keeping a watch over the grand grizzly that will guarantee his safety. A blue baby grizzly falls from the white grizzly, making it the most cute thing to watch. He notices that these grizzlies are exactly the same as they were. He states that watching them from this far warms his heart, but he believes that he cannot go back home without cooking some grand grizzly roasting party for Captain Rose. Holding his knife, he has made up his mind to chop them off, but he puts it off until another day. The darkness of the Linger forest has grown darker as the clouds hit the shower button over the area. Meanwhile, Usato asks the bunny if he should not go when the bunny makes a fuss over something. The bunny then tries to pull his feet back from the path Usato is walking on. Seeing the bunny put so much effort into such a tiny body, he honors his hard work and sits down. Furthermore, he mentions that he will stay till the rain stops over this tree and asks the bunny if it is good enough. The bunny then nods. Afterward, as the sky gets cleared up slowly, he is prepared again to battle the grizzlies and finally run off home. Moreover, he has planned to kick their butts and hand them over the stick as a trophy for Rose. Walking to the battlefield, the bunny hops on his shoulder and he realizes that this tiny thing has come again to change his mind. However, he tells him that he cannot stop him today and he has to hunt down the grizzlies to finally get out of the forest. The bunny gets sad and jumps away from the guy, but Usato continues to walk ahead. But as soon as he reaches the ground, he finds grizzlies slit open and butchered over the ground, bleeding to their deaths. Incapable to piece this together, he asks himself what the hell is going on here. Seeing the grizzlies slaughtered like a couple of tiny dogs, he thinks that Rose is going to be furious enough to make him her pet. He expresses that she will kill him when she sees that he has let someone else steal his prey. Noticing the bite marks over their bodies, his instincts remind him about the giant snake monster with red bulgy eyes. He is sure that the monster was not into eating the grizzlies but only liked tearing them apart. Just for the sake of killing, he has massacred a bunch of grizzlies, and this is how frightening that giant monster is. All of a sudden, he gets spooked when he hears a rumble far away from a moving rock. As the rock falls to the ground, Usato's gaze falls on the blue puffball, which seems like jumping down the ground. As the puffball seems to get closer, it becomes clear to see that it is the grizzly's child who is trying to nudge his mother to wake her up. Seeing this tragic incident, he is worried about losing to a giant snake monster and defeating a few grizzlies. But also seeing this terrible sight, he remembers that he hates losing to Rose as well. Not only that, he also spent quite a lot of his days planning a perfect trap to hunt the grizzlies down. But he hates that dumb giant snake monster stole his quarry, and he toured his nerve for nothing for so long. Clenching his knife, he mentions what he hates the most despite everything else, is seeing a child crying over his parents' brutal slaughter. Seeing this brutality, he tells the little grizzly that he will avenge the death of his parents, so just wait for him here. Afterwards, somewhere back home, a guy comes and asks for Usato's whereabouts. He gets to know that he is out for training in the dark forest. Furthermore, he mentions that Usato has been there for the last 10 days. The guy asks the baldy it is a bit of a long adventure for Usato-ken alone. As confused as they are, he tells them he doesn't know anything except the fact that the boss is the one who decides everything. The baldy asks the guy for confirmation beside them, who is trying to peel the potatoes, to which he adds that the boss is not present at the moment, and they are not aware of what is going on. The red-haired guy, Kazuki-kun, and the black-haired woman, Suzune, find themselves confused in the middle. In the vastness of the green field, as they both walk down the hill, the Suzune tells Kazuki-kun that he gets awfully stressed when it is about Usato-kun. To which Kazuki stops and turns to face his senpai, telling her that she should be worried about him as well. After carefully thinking about it, Suzune states that she cannot be honest with her opinion on this matter. Furthermore, she mentions that if Rose is making him do this all, then it is going to be fine. Realizing what Suzune said, he does believe in Rose picking the right decision. Moreover, Suzune tells him that she has faith in Usato, that he will soon come around, and his comeback will be hale and hearty. Realizing how much Suzune believes in Usato, Kazuki quickly mentions that he does believe in him too. Afterward, Usato in the forest is munching on the bread so far and peeling the wood as well. He continues to drink water from his bottle. Then he proceeds to do stretches and exercise, preparing himself for a great battle. Putting his small knife beside him, he makes a spear weapon out of wood and asks if the bunny is going to take him to the snake. The bunny is scared to even think about the snake, but Usato demands to show him the way only and then he can run away fast. So the bunny nods and agrees to show the way. He continues his training on the side of the river and also follows the bunny in finding the giant snake monster. Further ahead, he is shocked to see the giant snake at the same spot he left him. He remembers that he told the cub to stay here and now he is dangerous due to him. The giant snake is hissing towards this blue puffball. Looking at his eye, he remembers Rose's eye and anger, and he thinks about the order which was given. He has slowly drifted apart from his goal. Even so, he believes that this monster is really dangerous and his eyes are as terrifying as Rose's are. But even then, he believes that there is nothing spookier than Rose herself. Mustering up the courage finally, he jumps to attack that giant snake. When he thinks it is his chance, suddenly the snake comes right in his face as he is about to slash him in half. As the snake tries to bite, he finds an opportunity and strikes the wooden spear in the snake's red, bulgy eyes. The blood splashes outside, and when the snake screams in agony, he throws him on the side by his tail. Trying to heal himself, he asks the snake if this is all he has gotten. Determined to give his finishing blow, he takes out his knife. The giant snake jumps to come closer to attack Usato, but he thinks that it would be perfect if he attacks from where he is blinded, so the right side. Dodging the snake's attack, Usato jumps higher, but suddenly, the snake bites his shoulder as if it is chips for him, with half of his knife stuck in the snake's inside. Furthermore, he notices that he used his own blinding eye spot as bait to lure him out. With his shoulder stuck in the snake's mouth, he remembers that his knife is still half lodged inside, so he pushes it inside even further. As the blood spills over the ground, the snake loses and falls back in shock. But Usato is experiencing dizziness, not understanding what is happening or why everything is going blurry. Realization hits him hard when he figures that this snake is not just a giant but also venomous, but he tells it that he knows how to heal himself. Hence, thanks to that poisonous water, he learned how to heal himself of a stomach ache. He believes that when the poison is wrecking his insides, he only has to heal himself from the insides out. Finally, he lands a smacking punch to his throat, which ruptures the way inside. Not gonna lie, for a healer, he sure has a style and combat skills. Furthermore, he rips the snake into shreds and pieces with the help of the little cub slashing the snake with his nails. After conquering the giant snake, Usato is lying on the ground beside the snake, catching his breath, wondering if Rose will accept this. But right now, he is so glad that he finally took care of something bigger than a plain old grizzly. Then Blue Puff Grizzly runs his cheek against his, to which Usato replies that he has finally taken revenge for this little guy. When brushing his fur, he tells him that he wants to heal his wounds, but his mana has been used to neutralize the venom. Moreover, he is unable to move a single muscle because he is exhausted. All of a sudden, the bleeding giant snake wakes up again and glares with his red, bulgy eyes, sending fear down Usato's spine. He cannot believe what he is seeing, and he cannot move even if he is trying his best to. The cub is trying to help him pull out of this miserable situation, but he shouts at the cub to run away. Seeing the snake about to attack and eat both of them alive, his gaze widens. Thinking about Kazuki, Inukami-senpai, and Rose, this is where it struck him that all of this is Rose's fault for leaving him here with all these monsters. In his final moments, he screams the name of the brutal vixen, Rose, who played him over for the forest training. All of a sudden, when he screams about Rose being an ogre, Rose comes flashing from the sky and brutally smashes the snake to the ground in a few seconds. Looks like this took an unexpected turn, or this guy has some summoning magic as well. Squishing it beneath her boots, she feels disgusted by his existence, and she expresses that he should rot in hell now and die already. Seeing how Rose saved his ass, Usato bows on the floor before her, calling her Captain Rose. Shocked to see her, he asks why she is here, to which she replies that the tiny bunny filled me in and I came as fast as I could. Rose further introduces the bunny as Kukuru, the smug face, who is her pet that she left to watch to guard your safety. This guy's trust is robbed from the bunny world. Now, every time he sees a bunny, he will think of some shady business underneath that smug face. He complains that this bunny came to him injured and all. Rose smirks at his mediocre judgment, calling him a sucker. She further clarifies that it was all an act to make you trust him. Moreover, she describes that she never left this place and she was nearby, ready to wait for the signal when she was needed. But she didn't know that something like this could come. He asks if she knows this monster, to which Rose tells him that it is a creation of the Demon Lord's army. Furthermore, she mentions that Siglas couldn't end this creature during the last invasion because it must have run into the forest. As they look over the snake, she states that she never expected him to kill Grand Grizzlies intently. Hence, she describes that their power is so immense that a full unit of elite troops is needed to hunt one down. Realization hits him hard when he figures out that Rose wanted a novice like him to fight with this giant monster. Furthermore, she explains that she doesn't expect him to win from this, but the goal doesn't change. She says it was to gain the experience of fighting something much stronger than you. She did see when the snake arrived, but she tells him that things got so interesting that she didn't want to intervene and see what would happen. Usodo protests, saying that he could have died by now. Soon, the blue cub starts to defend Usodo against Rose. Not gonna lie, this puffy bear is out here in such a small package, trying to defend a half-assed loser from a giant snake. Talk about the loyalty of the cubs over the vengeance tales. That's new. Rose asks him if he has taken a liking to him, to which he replies that he took revenge for his parents being killed by that snake. He says that he is all alone now. Seeing them get along so well, Rose tells the grizzly that he is coming with them now. She tells him that his job would be to carry this knuckle-headed loser, so the cub then nudges and puts Usodo over his back, ready to be on duty. All of them then proceed to go home as Rose lifts all of them on his bare hand. Looks like this woman could bench press a dragon if she wants. When they are set on their path, Rose asks Usodo what he was calling her before. Rude? A violent woman? An ogre? A chill runs down his spine. She tells him that he is not getting any sleep tonight on her watch, and she will make sure of that. She then declares that he has passed with flying, erupting colors this time. Looking over the sunset, she tells him that he is qualified to stand with her on the battlefield. However, she does believe he cannot handle the basics, yet he has got what it takes. The thing she finds most outstanding are his ability to withstand physical pain and his physical aptitude with a strong mentality. Further on, she mentions that these abilities aren't found in the other two healers. She tells him to be proud and soon he will be joining in on something that is coming. When he asks what it is, she tells him that the demon army might be attacking soon. Looks like the Illinger Kingdom is about to get lingering by a demon army. Sounds like things are starting to get dicey, or should I say spicy? Afterward, a man calls Amila Vergret, the commander of the Third Army, to which she responds that she is present. He asks her how the preparation to invade the Illinger Kingdom is taking place. She tells him that it is smoothly proceeding and everything's ready. Therefore, they will soon initiate their advances into the Illinger Kingdom. The day of Usodo hunting down the grizzlies but accidentally crossing paths with a giant snake monster of Demon Lord's army has come to an end. Captain Rose, who helped him take down that fuzzy old snake, is standing before the sunset. As the wind rustles through her gorgeous green hair, she finally reveals her awaited fear. She declares that the demon army is on their move to attack soon. Shaken to hear this news, Usodo confirms that the war is going to erupt while sitting cross-legs behind her with his new companion, the young grizzly. When to fear when you have a blue puff grizzly to rescue you. A dash full of cuteness-induced enemy distraction is gonna take them all down to the sweet old hell. Furthermore, she states that as per his abilities and today's status report on his resilience, she wants him to be on the front lines. This guy on the front lines? Looks like we're about to have a front row seat to this show. From what I hear, it's gonna be somewhere between sword slashes and crispy popcorn fun. She expresses how he is better at equipping physical pain and a strong mental state better than the other two healers. Therefore, she tells him that he has passed the test to be one of the frontliners to heal the wounded. Turning to see him eye to eye, she conveys that they will be recruited in the vanguard. Confused as to how he managed to hit that high, he asks what is going to happen with Tong and others with him. Taking this into consideration, he expresses that there are other healers in the midst as well. In addition to that, she clarifies that the other two healers are going to have a fitting role just like the right man for the right job. Judging his abilities, headed commander that it is going as smoothly as it is expected. Furthermore, she informs him that their units are done preparing for the Illinger battle. She declares that they shall soon leave and initiate their advances toward the Illinger Kingdom. This makes the Demon Lord happy, and he entrusts 3rd Army Commander Emila to lead the troops further on from here. To elaborate further, he expresses that they have managed to slip through their grasp before, despite their past successes. Taking her life into consideration, he states that he wants to see her absolute efforts, although she doesn't need to battle to the grave. Bowing to her demon lord, she promises to do her best. Seeing how she is ready to put her life on the line, he tells her that she is as serious as always. Then he dismisses her, permitting her she can go now. A few moments later, she walks out to the corridors and catches her dying breath while sweating. The presence of the Demon Lord is enough to take someone's breath and soul away. Someone spots her panting heavily and asks if Commander Amila got so worked up before the Demon Lord. She turns to see someone coming from the shadows. A man with white hair and glasses appears to be mocking her panting. Glaring at the demon doctor from a distance, she commands him that if he is so free to mock others, he better pay attention to his work. With that, he asks her to forget that weird nickname already and go with his proper name, Hyruluk. Ignoring his smug face, she further walks ahead while hearing him rant about his work going quite smoothly. To elaborate further, Hiriluk explains that he is just done with the newest prototype of the demon-made monster. Swiftly, he catches up to her to ask her if she wants to take a look at it. Later, he shows her the demon-made monster he came up with, like a humongous giant snake trapped in the ocean blue ball in front of them. So he asks her opinion on this prototype. In this context, he further shares that this guy is highly venomous, including a gigantic body with his sharp, pointy fangs as a plus point. Like a mad scientist, he declares this monster as Demon-Made Monster Prototype 72, Baljanak. Ignoring all the above, she points out that he has given the Prototype 71 the exact same name. Moreover, she recalls that the Prototype 71 went missing in their last attack on the Linger Kingdom. Adding to this, he states that after battling heavy wounds against the warrior named Siglis, he ran away somewhere. But in his defense, the doctor expresses that the number 72 is going to be stronger and better than the 71. While grinding her teeth, she hopes that he is right about this prototype because there are far worse gruesome warriors than Siglis in the Linger Kingdom. Remembering the rumors about them, the doctor points out as she is talking about the kidnappers. Adding to this, she says that there are some who don't fight at all but stand on the battlefield. They keep waiting among them in front to sweep the injured fighters back from underneath their gaze before anyone could realize it. So to put it briefly, the doctor says that they reduced their casualties with this technique. Furthermore, she explains that their boss runs around all over the front lines as a healer, doing his duty on the spot. Not only is she a top-notch healer, but also she battles infuriatingly well, like she has a red-eyed demon of her own inside. Moreover, she adds that this woman is after her master while holding a deep grudge against him. Clenching his fist, she swears someday she will defeat that old hag. Adding to that, the doctor reminds her that she is the commander of the troops this time, so she cannot go into the battle herself. To his remark, she turns around to walk away while sharing some of her battle strategies that she has planned to send a demon. Therefore, she tells him that there is an armed knight dressed in black shiny armor whom she has chosen for this particular job. He is up to it because he rides with the intent to kill, and he is known to be the immortal mage of darkness, the Black Knight himself. The knight further on stands in front of the line troops, waiting for the signal to start the battle to the Linger Kingdom. Afterward, somewhere in the Linger Kingdom, still, the heavy fog is scattered around everywhere as if the clouds decided to take a walk. With the continued singing of the birds, starting their day in the trees, a house sits nearby where a man declares that the beds are the best over everything. With a bald man lying next to him, Usato hugs his pillow while confronting how he missed hearing Tong snoring. The sun is shining brightly over this land of Linger, and another has just started. The blue grizzly bear sleeping so calmly is disturbed by Usato Ken asking if he is awake now. Recognizing his partner's voice, he moves his ears to express that he is up and ready for the day. Therefore, Usato has brought lots of delicious treats for this grizzly's breakfast. Talk about bed and breakfast, a cute face like him can get all anytime, anywhere. Then he expresses that he has picked some things for him from the cafeteria. Usato proceeds to give him some kind of fruit, and a young bear smells it to make sure. The grizzly's eyes get sparkly, and he eats it in one go. Seeing how happy the grizzly is, he says that he makes it look a lot more delicious than he thought it would be. Then he grabs one for himself and takes a bite. For his luck, he expresses that it tastes damn better than it looks, but the impatient grizzly knocks off the fruit from his hands and gulps it in. Blushing so cutely, the grizzly chews it all up with contentment. Laughing to see how puffy he has gotten, he sits before him with a smile and calls him a glutton face. Hearing a strange sound behind the grizzly, he notices a white long ear hiding behind him. Soon, the bunny steps away from the grizzly and comes in light before Usato. He remembers how this tiny bunny acted so hurt and cute in the last adventure with the giant snake, but he was Rose's undercover agent in disguise. While whispering, he calls him a traitor. Further on, he expresses that he has not forgotten how he broke his heart and toyed with its innocence. Not gonna lie, this bunny has wrecked Usato off from cute bunny encounters. If he is gonna spot one again, he won't stop himself from remembering the treacherous attempt of a secret agent spying on him from the shadows. But this bunny knows how to melt hearts while showing his glimmery eyes with blushed cheeks. All of a sudden, he forgets everything and is charmed by Kukuru's dazzling cuteness. Realizing what Kukuru is doing, he shakes it off and tells the bunny that he cannot make a fool of him ever again, no matter how cute he can be. Confused as to where the sound "coo" is coming from, soon something touches his leg. He looks down to see Kukuru snuggling with his leg, and Usato fights the urge but fails. Frustrated, he then decides to share some of the food with the bunny as well. Blushing with content, Kukuru then sits beside a grizzly munching on the fruit happily. Seeing how the bunny is munching, the young grizzly asks for Usato's attention by giving him a paw. He has named his blue grizzly as Blurin. Usato tells him that he knows he is cute too, and he asks Blurin to eat up. Captain Rose enters the scene being confused about the name Blurin, and Usato spots her casually while feeding the grizzly. As the bunny hops to her shoulder, she then asks if this is the name he is going to give him. Turning to her, he passionately tells him that he took blue from the color blue and re from grizzly to make Blurin. He then expresses that it is a pretty good name according to him, while asking Rose if she thinks the same. Hence, he then feeds another fruit while calling Blurin to open his mouth. As Kukuru licks his hand, the Rose watches Usato with concern. Furthermore, he tells Blurin that it hurts when he is trying to bite from his hands, as if it is something to eat too. Ignoring his motherly love for Blurin, she slides away with whatever look. Moreover, she conveys that she has reported the grizzly bear to His Majesty, and they have been permitted to keep Blurin as property of the rescue team. Shooting a glare at the bear, she then tells the grizzly that he can stay, but he has to earn his stay and his keep. Sweat washes over the young bear, and he gets scared by Captain Rose while hiding underneath hay. Usato then asks what Blurin has to do then. Later on the bright sunny day, Blurin yawns when Usato is picking him up in a piggyback formation with iron rods on the front of his chest. He demands why he is carrying him like that when he thinks that running together makes all the sense. Standing beside the field, Rose, the green-headed hottie, commands Usato to stay in this position and tells him this is going to be the simulation training. Grim appears on his face as he tries to take the grizzly's weight on top of him. Adding to that, she explains to Usato to think of the Blurin as someone who is in trouble and he has to rescue him. He looks at the young grizzly on top of him and thinks if he needs to be rescued. Ignoring his chatter, she keeps on saying that Blurin is someone like a wounded soldier in a different sense. With crossed arms, she tells him to hurry and start running up. All of a sudden, they start running together and realize that he has run before, only now he has more weight to carry this path. Furthermore, he smiles while telling the sleepy Blurin that if he manages his mana while running, then it will be a breeze to run through this. All of a sudden, Rose spooks the heck out of this guy. She commands him to pick a damn better pace, or the wounded soldier on his back won't even make it. Frustrated with his captain, he thinks that he did not realize how heavy this little guy is while running in the field. Geez. As he is walking down the path to rescue the young grizzly, the baldy Tongo, trying to mimic One Punch Man, comes out of the bushes flying to smack a punch to Usato. As Tongo the baldy scares the heck out of this guy, another guy with blonde hair comes running directly at him. However, Usato-ken swiftly dodges the attack thinking what is going on, and he shouts at them asking what the hell they are trying to do. With a concerned look over Blurin, he keeps on running ahead anyway while being chased by these two guys. Moreover, when asking them why they are here, they cross-question Usato about the Master Rose, who must have filled him in. They then inform him that they are part of the stimulating training today, to which Usato expresses that he does not need anyone's help on this battlefield. Furthermore, one of them informs him that there are others hidden in the shadows, waiting to ambush you as well. So they ask him to better focus on them and quit complaining about it. Therefore, Usato then hurries and runs ahead of them. An hour later, he gets shaken to see a man breaking the ground to jump before him and ready to smack Usato with his wooden sword. But he successfully dodges that as well. Later, strange ocean blue balls start falling from the sky. As soon as they hit the ground, the green aura starts evaporating from their liquid and reeks of an awful deadly smell. Irritated as to how far they all can go in this simulation training, he holds his nose tight while lifting Blurin over his back with the other hand. Meanwhile, a guy is sitting on top of a tree, hiding in its shadow, calling out war of his specially made stinky balls over Usato as he runs away faster than the leopard. He shouts at the guy to stop making such crappy weird things. Then 3 hours later, another guy breaks the ropes that were tightly holding the wooden logs together and sends them off to Usato's pathway. Tired from running for 3 hours straight, he has met with rolling hurdles in his path, and he still can jump with Blurin on the back, dodging one after another. Then, 4 hours later, he feels kind of slow. All of a sudden, he gets spooked when the bunny Kukuru steps in his way, and he is about to be squished under his foot. Usato, in a hurry, jumps out of the way, accusing that cute spy to be in this with everyone. Further on, when a wooden fan is moving with the wind, Usato has made his way up there with Blurren still on his back. The guy is on the end with his limits, and he is healing himself while continuing to walk. Suddenly, after running so many hours, he feels something weird and trips over to the ground. Blurren then snuggles with his face and is worried about him, to which he says thanks to the grizzly while lying in the field, trying to catch his breath. He then expressed that he thought he could manage this training for at least half a day. Soon, Rose steps in, informing them that this is the limit you should notice of your endurance on the battlefield. Moreover, she mentions that humans get fatigued and exhausted while handling emotions like fear, impatience, and nervousness. To elaborate further, she mentions that is why he keeps on running out of energy and strength faster than normal. On the question of what he should do then, she shoves her hand on his face, telling him to shove it in his butt and get used to it while healing his exhaustion. Adding to that, she then asks him to obtain mental fortitude and the ability to be decisive and not halt in the face of fear and trouble. He then holds his head while sitting and thanks her a ton for healing him. In this context, she keeps on adding that once his mana has been restored back to its original state, he is ordered to spend his all afternoon running around the castle town. Startled to hear this, he asks if this applies to having Blurren again on a piggyback formation. She turns to tell him that it is obvious he must. Later in the castle town, everyone is caught off guard with the person running around with a sleepy grizzly bear on his back. There are continuous whispers of what the heck is going on in the castle town. Seeing a blue grizzly, some of them are scared as to what is happening. Irritated by the commotion, Usato thinks he knew this could happen. He feels that young Blurren may look cute and docile, but he is still a monster to these people. One of them expresses that now she has taken a good look in size and relief, they spot Usato as part of the rescue team. Realizing this, the people take a sigh of relief. Blurren's nose-like dog picks off a smell that is enough to break his sleep. He then taps his shoulder to ask Usato to go over to the fruit section. A woman is selling that green fruit that Blurren likes. Usato apologizes that he doesn't have money to pay for it, but he still asks what these fruits are called, to which that woman replies that these are the kingdom's specialty, peffles. Upon requesting another question, he asks why everyone is calm when he is carrying a monster on his back. She then reminds him that he is part of a rescue team, looking at his clothes. Furthermore, she tells him that she sees people like him running around the town all the time and hardly anything scares them, thanks to the team. However, he thinks about how scary their faces are. No wonder they have gotten used to seeing monsters now. Then he is about to go ahead when the lady asks him to take one peffle for a treat. While thanking her for her generosity, as soon as gets it in his hands, Blurren eats his hands with the peffle. He then scolds him for having bad manners and sees off the nice old lady. Later, a blonde with kitty ears, Amako asks the granny if that is someone from the rescue team. Watching over the bright sky, Usato tells Blurren to meet Kazuki and Senpai, since they are near the castle grounds. When they are running towards the castle, a blonde guy spots them running and runs after them while calling out to stop. When Usato is thinking if Blurren will be allowed inside the castle, a man behind them keeps asking them to stop for a moment. He then tells Blurren that maybe they will refuse because the king lives in that castle too, but they might reconsider seeing how cute Blurren is. The blonde guy keeps on calling him when Usato is finding excuses to get Blurren inside the castle somehow. After some time, the guy trips over and both of them look around to ask if he is okay. Later at the end of the stairs, Usato is healing that guy's injuries and asks how he feels now. Apologizing for the trouble, he then tells him he feels a lot better now. Hence, he asks the guy if he was trying to get to him, to which the blonde guy replies that he was trying to get acquainted with his new junior, and he doesn't usually raise his voice like that. Seeing how confused Usato looks, he figures Rose hasn't told anything yet, so he introduces himself as one of the rescue team's healers, Orga Fleur. He then tells him he knew about the new member, but he could never guess that he was summoned with the heroes, although he mentions that he has been training a lot lately that he forgets who he is from time to time. Laughing awkwardly, he is amazed to hear that Usato can keep up with Rose's training while mentioning that it was hard for him and his sister. Stunned to know that Orga's sister is the other healer, he tells him that she is 5 years younger and they run a clinic in the city too while using their healing magic. Connecting the dots, he asks why he collapsed earlier, to which he replies that he is not good at healing himself as compared to healing others. Furthermore, Usato confides that there are many kinds of healers, and Orga adds that they are part of the rescue team now. He further elaborates that they tend to the wounded under the captain's orders in times of need. Listening to Orga, he recalls Rose telling him that he will tend to the wounded on the front lines as part of the vanguard. He then asks Orga about what he does on the battlefield. Thinking, he mentions Tong and others bring injured to the rear, where he and his sister tend to their injuries like support members trying to reduce the casualties. Moreover, Usato mentions that Rose asked him to join Vanguard, but he asks if he can really handle it. Startled to hear this, Orga tells him that knights and heroes in battle are the ones on the front lines and they are in greatest danger every second. Furthermore, he explains that when they get left behind due to their injuries, they wait for their death because it is harder to reach them. But if only there are healers enough to roam around the battlefield, they can be rescued too. Absolutely, he states that it is a risky and exhausting job for a healer, but Captain must trust him because he has proved in deserving such a position. With that, he takes a leave to attend his clinic, or else his sister will scold him. Usato then goes on to do his training. Plus, before bidding his farewell, he asks Usato to not hate Rose too much because she is just clumsy with people. Usato, cutting him, assures him that he doesn't hate Rose at all, even if he thinks of chopping her off to Blurren for dinner. Watching Usato run away, Orga signs in relief, thinking that finally Rose found someone. Startled to hear his sister, Yururu scolding the heck out of him through the stairs, she asks if he wants to die on his own. He then expresses he isn't that weak, and also mentions he met Usato just now. He believes that Yururu will like him as much as he does. Afterward, reaching the castle, he asks the guard if he can take Blurren inside. The guard confirms that he is Sir Usato from the rescue team, and upon confirming, he grants him permission to take a grizzly bear inside the castle. Upon asking, the guard tells him that Captain Rose has vouched for this grizzly, so he has permission to step inside. He then thanks the guard and moves on ahead, thinking how many people trust Rose. He runs beside a training round of soldiers, battling each other to strengthen their stances on the battlefield. As he goes further, he spots Senpai battling with another soldier, and she is quick to spot Usato-kun. She asks what's this fluffy blue thing on his back. He then introduces his blue grizzly cub, called Blurren, to her. Further mentioning that when he did survival training in the Ylinger Forest, there he found this bear. He looks over to see if Inukami-senpai is paying attention to his stories, but she is staring at the fuzzy balls on the ground. Hesitantly, she asks Usato if she can touch this thing. He assures her that Blurren is super rammed and is friendly. He asks her to touch him. If he bites, he can heal her. Startled to hear, she tells him that sometimes he says scary things. But upon touching and claiming animals love her, Blurren knocks her hand away. To save her from embarrassment, she says that she is savoring the feeling of its toes. Then he asks her to call his name, so she asks Blurren to be friends with her, but he bites her hand instead. Smiling awkwardly, he tells her that he must have a tainted soul. But suddenly, Blurren bites his hands, making it comical. She then asks him of having a tainted soul too. Later, she tells him it's been a long time since she has seen him. Looking over her hand, she mentions that she got overzealous in handling swords during training. He takes her hand and heals it for her. Blushing, Senpai asks if he has come to see her today, to which he replies that he has come to see her and Kazuki as well. Turning away, she believes that his super honesty is his only flaw. Furthermore, she tells him that Kazuki isn't here, but outside the kingdom. Moreover, she mentions that he went to gather experience in battling the monsters with sigils and others. Later, while riding the horses, Kazuki asks Commander Siglis if it is true that the Demon Lord's army is going to attack soon. Nodding, Siglis tells him that he is sure they are ready to present more powerful forces than last time, but he adds that they have him and Dame Suzune. Adding to that, he mentions having a raised morale of troops due to the two new heroes joining their sides this time, so victory sides on them. Further ahead, they battle with the wolves together. Later, Senpai mentions that after Kazuki, it is her turn to gain experience, and Usato sees she is going to have fun. She wishes he was worried about her, but not a half-assed worried. Then he bids farewell to Senpai, holding Blurren on his back. She then lifts her sword, thinking how frank they have grown together. Later, seeing everyone working so hard, all because the day of the battle with the Demon Lord's army is drawing nearer. Since they're going to the battle, he wants to be there for them, so he will work hard to stand among them. Back home, he recalls he could only admire people who could do things he could never do, but it's not the same anymore. Afterward, at night, he puts Blurren to sleep and watches Rose standing outside alone. Rose then asks him how his training was, and did he get used to the grizzly's weight. He then tells him that he has been training for a little longer, and has gotten a bit used to it. Usato then asks something she said about yesterday. He then confesses that he barely survives the giant snake, so he mentions that he was honestly scared of Demon Lord's army approaching soon. He didn't want to step foot there until today. He found something stronger that could scare home even more. He says that he cannot kill anyone or fight with them, but he will rescue Kazuki and Inumaki-senpai, or anyone that needs help, because he declares he is part of the rescue team. With that, she smiles and walks to him, while fist bumping his chest. Showing how proud she is, she tells him together they will save lots of people and knock out the would-be martyrs, and bring them to life. Not only that, but they will snatch the wounded from underneath that enemy without them realizing it. She then looks him in the eye and tells him that together they will keep those at death's door alive even if it kills them. That's the job of the rescue team. This is the time Usato Ken felt he was truly a member of the rescue team. Afterward, Rose puts a heady bag on Usato's stomach, telling him to wake up for His Majesty's message over yesterday. She then tells him to head out and join Hiro Suzu in his training outside the castle. Later, as they continue their journey, Blurrin throws on a reverse card, and now we get to see Usato carrying this huge beast. Looking at Blurrin blowing a balloon from his nose makes Usato question the reason why he is being forced to join Suzu in his training. Because Commander Siglis and the Knights are already accompanying Kazuki. At first, Rose totally ignores him and keeps walking like she is in some sort of aided. But then the girl explains that weirdly, they have received the same request for Hiro Kazuki's training. However, she had to refuse that quest since Usato had just come back from the forest. Well, this low-key triggered His Majesty, who petitioned Rose again last night. Thus, she cannot refuse him a second time. I mean, if I had such a hottie in my kingdom, I would definitely petition against her every day. Furthermore, she tells Usato that he is going to be their healer in case of any unforeseen event. That is why she wants him to take it easy for 3 days and 2 nights. Anyways, the duo finally reach their destination, and there, they bump into Suzune, Haruko, and Korin. Suzune gets excited and surprised to see Usato joining her. She didn't expect that wimp to join up, but what excites her more is the fact that Usato brought Blurrin along with him. She believes that Usato is trying to help her get closer to Blurrin. Soon you guys will be seeing an explicit video, but not on this website for sure. Usato then clarifies that he only brought Blurrin here because he had no choice. Usato is the only one Blurrin actually likes. This somewhat pisses Suzune because she wants to be the loved one around here. Is it me? Or does Rose feel kind of jealous when Usato mentions Blurrin loving him? Anyways, Suzune then introduces the crib consisting of Haruko the Knight and Korin the Mage. What is up with the priests not opening their eyes? Although Korin respectfully greets the duo and tells them that she is looking forward to working with them. Usato then starts staring at Haruko's NPC default face. He feels like he has met him or seen him somewhere before. Thus, Haruko explains that after many episodes, he finally got the limelight, or else he normally works as a castle gatekeeper. While the small talks are going on, Rose calls the hero Suzune out and tells her that the healing magic Usato uses isn't omnipotent. Because that guy can cure poison and mend injuries, however, it is all over if she dies. That is why she'd highly suggest the gang to not overestimate healing magic and be careful while stepping into the field. Bruh, this girl just said the most obvious thing one could hear, of course. Usato is a healer, not a necromancer or something. Even Suzune takes this warning quite seriously and assures Rose that they will be careful and will avoid any dumb move. Though Rose knows that Suzune has been trained under Siglis, so in most cases, she knows that Suzune will do a great job. But in this mission, Suzune is not alone. That is why she had to warn him. Basically, Rose is pointing her finger at Usato because she has zero faith in that boy. Rose legit gives a cold stare at Usato and tells him that she has nothing to say to him. Looking at Usato being confused, which actually pisses her off more, Rose starts confronting Usato and mocks him for expecting advice from her. Thus, Usato starts sweating and he tells her that it is okay. Besides, he knows that she will just hurl abuse at him. If Rose didn't have that mommy figure, Usato would never tolerate such behavior. Anyways, Rose then walks away and tells the group that they should too start their journey. After staring Rose walking away, Suzune tells Usato that his mentor is quite strong. So this confuses the boy and he asks her what she meant by that. However, Suzune smiles and tells him that it is nothing and they should start moving. Okay, that was the cringiest e-girl thing that she could do, and I don't know why Suzune actually ran after saying that. On the other hand, we see Kazuki practicing with his sword alone in the garden. This dude needs a friend and a wooden sword, seriously. Anyways, Kazuki then gets interrupted by Cilia, who is unreasonably making a crying face as she asks Kazuki what he is doing after literally seeing him what he is actually doing. So Kazuki tells the dumb blondie that he is practicing swings, but Celia, who is surrounded by her maids, confronts Kazuki. Apparently, Celia has heard about Kazuki returning from the grueling training yesterday, and she cannot believe that he is back at it so soon. Celia then moves further closer to Kazuki as she holds his arm and tells him to relax and take it easy. Whoa, this kid ain't 18 for sure, so she needs to step back. Kazuki looks at her and smirks as he tells her that he already had a full night's rest, therefore he is fine. But still, Celia is concerned about him and asks him if he is not overexerting himself. Something weird happens because the moment Usato lifts his arm to show her he is fine, Celia jumps back like someone just raised the speed of her vibrator. This actually confuses the guy as he stares at Celia falling back. She then wishes Kazuki good luck and runs away while blushing. Now back to Usato. He cannot believe that Kazuki came back that exhausted from the training. However, according to Suzanne, Kazuki was actually happy to get so much combat experience. Taking down lots of monsters on the plain near a forest called the Darkness of Linger gave Kazuki the chills. And that is exactly where Suzune is planning to take the group into. Moreover, Usato gets concerned when he hears the forest's name, because that is a place where Blurren's happy family lives, so he wonders if Blurren will feel nostalgic going back there. Suddenly, Suzune makes a suspicious face and asks Usato if Blurren is going to stay asleep, because if that is the case, then she wants to at least carry him or pet him. But that doesn't seem like a good idea to Usato, who is being possessive. Not only does that boy refuse Suzanne, but he legit snaps Suzanne's hand when she reaches her hand out to the bear. And just like this, an ultra instinct level fight begins between these two. After swelling Suzune's hands, she finally stops and asks Usato what's the big deal. So the boy says likewise that what is the big deal of patting this blue bear, he doesn't understand what has gotten into her. So Suzune uses her feminine card and tells Usato that this is not so manly, slapping a lady's hand. She believes that Usato must have some sort of hand-slapping fetish. Not gonna lie, that might actually be a thing. The world is a pretty weird place. Usato, on the other hand, totally neglects this accusation and tells her that he has no idea what she is talking about. Well, finally, Blurren wakes up from his nap after his nose bubble pops. Thus, finally, Usato tells the bear to walk on his own legs, though, due to his sleep hangover. Blurren starts walking a zigzag, which creeps Usato out, while Suzanne finds Blurren's unconscious state an opportunity to touch him. Okay, this sounded really weird, but she means it in a good way, I hope. Suzanne sits on the ground and offers Blurren to ride her. I mean, she basically wants the bear to jump on her back so she can carry it. Though Usato isn't so sure about this and even warns her, but it is too late. Lazy Blurren is so numb right now that bro forgets his comfort zone and hangs on her back. Finally, Suzanne's wish comes true and she starts feeling his fluffy hair and warm body. But little does that woman know this bear is actually heady. The moment she tries to carry it, Suzanne falls down. Hence, Usato rushes for help and tells Suzanne to stop getting herself hurt before they even start to fight. He then pushes Blurren and tells that Lazy has to use his feet. Technically, he humbles her because the very next moment, Suzanne gently apologizes to Usato for worrying him and making him use his healing magic on her already. Can we appreciate the fact that along with healing magic, Usato has a great amount of strength? Man was legit carrying this fate-ass Blurren like it has no weight this whole time. Plus, Usato tells her that it is okay, he doesn't mind using his magic, but he wants Suzanne to be more careful. Suddenly, both Blurren and Korin sense presence. It appears that Korin's staff has detected multiple creatures ahead. And not just that, Haruku loudly says that whoever is ahead of them should stop immediately and reveal themselves if they are not monsters. Basically, he detected two people's presence. Well, it's not monsters, but it is worse, humans. Two people then come out of the bushes and reveal their intention of ambushing them after they would surround them. But now that they have been caught, they are left with no option but to fight face to face. Apparently, the group is now surrounded by a bunch of bandits. Why is there always a bald guy in those groups who does the talking? Seeing the royal knights and mage makes them think that they hit some sort of jackpot. Thus, the bandits ask them to drop all of their valuable items if they wish to live. Seriously? Seeing a group of adventurers is a plus point. And as expected, Haruku refuses, which pisses the bandits off. He reminds Haruku that they have outnumbered them and it would be wise of them to just surrender. Usato, on the other hand, is still confused and wonders if those people are bandits. No shit, Sherlock. Can't blame him. The boy expected the bandits to look more dangerous with some cool scars rather than a bald guy and a bunch of rainbow-haired people. Weirdly, Suzanne seems scared as she pinches Usato, but the boy tells her to not worry, even he can handle these small fries on his own. Turns out, instead of being scared, Susan is actually excited. Because this is the first time she has encountered real bandits. For so long, she thought that this concept only existed in stories. In a world full of magic and miracles, she didn't believe in bandits. What the heck? However, Blurrin then walks further for a good view, but seeing the blue grizzly bear on their side scares. But hey, Baldy ain't gonna stand there and hear their chit-chat. So he commands his men to rush because he believes magic is useless in melee range. Well, guess he was wrong because Suzanne legit stunned the whole group in a single blow. Usato, who is chicken riding Suzanne, calls her attack a human electric eel. So Suzanne tells him to stop with the cringe. Baldy then starts to whine that using magic in a sword fight is not fair. So Iruku swings his sword at him and tells him to surrender if he doesn't wish to join his boys. There, Korn reveals that she's sensing another reaction nearby, and that thing is coming their way really fast. Turns out, a great number of fall boars start running and jumping around the group. It confuses Iruku because usually their habitats are found deeper in the woods, not at the border. Moreover, these boars are crushing whatever is coming in front of them. As one of the boars is about to hit Usato, whose guard is down, Blurrin jumps for the save and knocks that boar out. Whereas Susan is trying to electrocute as many boars as she can. Looks like someone is preparing dinner. Unfortunately, one of the boars manages to get closer to Suzanne as he's about to hit her. So Usato immediately runs in front as a human shield as he hugs Suzanne. And the very next moment we see both of them sent flying by that boar. But in the mid-air, Usato manages to heal the hero so she would receive less fall damage. Let's not underestimate that hit, because Usato and Suzanne legit fell like 1 kilometer away. Worst case is, they fell right onto the edge of the forest and ended up falling down the river as they are now getting swayed with the river. As they are being carried away by the water, luckily Usato uses his brain and remembers this place because he was here before when he was being chased by the grizzly bears. But unfortunately, with that memory, he realizes that they are about to fall from a huge waterfall. Hence, he tells Suzanne to take a big breath as they are about to hit a roller coaster ride. After taking a huge fall, of course, Usato takes the whole damage and ends up knocked out. And the very next thing he sees is lying on the bank of the river while Susan is carrying him to somewhere safe. The girl tells him that she's the kind of woman who always repays her debt. But Usato tells her that it is okay now. He feels fine. Besides, this looks quite embarrassing, carrying a guy while being all wet. So Susan immediately pushes him back because she doesn't know that the boy is awake. I mean, he could have stayed that way for a bit longer, but Usato decided to act all macho. Plus, Usato explains that he's the one who pulled Suzanne out of the water, and he didn't get knocked out. Instead, he was just resting a bit. But that is there. Usato sees a cut on Suzanne's face and asks to heal her wound first. After healing her, Suzanne starts apologizing to Usato because of things turning this way. But Usato tells her to not worry, besides he's glad that they fell together. Either this kid is in love with her, or he's very focused on Suzanne's protection. Moreover, Usato explains that this place reminds him of the old days, because this is where his captain tossed him for his training. Plus, he warns Suzanne to be careful because there are tons of monsters stronger than fall boars here. The duo then realizes that they are actually stranded here. They have been separated from their group, and now they are left with no food, not even a day's worth. So Susan highly suggests to Usato that they should leave this forest as soon as possible, if it is as dangerous as he says. But the boy tells her that it is going to be dark soon and the weather doesn't look too good, so it would be wise of them to find a safe place to take shelter and then head back tomorrow morning. Nah, Usato is just trying to get her laid in the wild. Since Susan has no option but to agree with him, she asks Usato how they will find a safe place. Usato then brags about how he slept in the trees last time, but he's not so sure if Suzanne can actually do that, probably because she had a luxurious life of cozy beds, and it turns out to be true. Susan explains that she has never climbed a tree before, though it is on her to-do list, but she was never allowed. Seeing her sad face over this thing confirms Usato that she really is a sheltered daughter of some rich family. Well, because of that, Usato points out a small cave and tells her that they can take shelter there. Besides, it is perfect because they won't have to worry about rain there. things start to get interesting as Usato tells Suzanne to go into the bushes and change her clothes. She blushes and asks Usato to not peek. Anyways, later, to prepare their dinner, Suzanne puts her hand in the river and uses her shock magic. Thus, a great amount of dead fish starts to float. This impresses Usato, who was concerned about the dinner. Don't know how the chemistry works here, but usually while putting her hand on the water, Susan should have also gotten electrocuted. Okay, we get it, you had daddy issues. Usato low-key understands her point of view and tells her that it is not wrong to feel that way. This surprises Suzanne because usually people would get disgusted after seeing her having such a selfish mindset. And for a moment, she feels like Usato is being completely disillusioned with her, and fair enough, she won't blame him for that. But Usato tells her that he actually means it. Even though he always felt the same way, he wanted to change his mundane everyday life and his mundane self. So one way or another, he feels like he sounds the same as Suzanne's perception. In case you don't know, mundane is like an NPC. Usato then starts to open up about the time when they first arrived here. He was always worried about not getting in her and Kazuki's way. But look at him now, he is a part of the rescue team, and who thought that this healer boy would become this useful. Usato further explains that he has steeled his resolve to protect Suzanne, Kazuki, and the people of this kingdom. Even Suzanne agrees with the protecting part since she is a hero after all. And so, Usato offers Suzanne to join up as they both will save the people of the Linger Kingdom together. Even though this has nothing to do with their old world, they will protect the place they have made for themselves here. Suzanne is actually surprised to see how Usato has gotten to be so dependable. Whereas Usato says that Suzanne has become more human now. Back in the days, she was like some untouchable flower. Hearing that surprises her because she always noticed Usato being so cold towards her. Yup, they keep on talking about how they have evolved for a couple of minutes, and now they feel nostalgic to be back. Suzanne also likes how they have gotten into a closer relationship. Hearing this, Usato starts to turn red, and before his intrusive thoughts start to kick in the rainy weather, the boy tells himself not today and heads off to sleep as he says his goodnight. Suzanne gets the hint of his Eiffel Tower rising. She even starts teasing Usato for getting shy. But the boy totally ignores her and keeps pretending to be asleep as his snores get louder. Suzanne then expresses that she is glad to have this talk with him. The girl was really looking forward to it. Is it safe to say that these two don't regret getting separated from the group and ending up stranded? It then cuts to the morning where the duo continue their journey to head outside the forest. And not gonna lie, Usato has no idea about the exit. He is just following his guts. The boy tells Suzanne to keep her guard up because this place is surrounded by monsters, thus they need to be prepared. After moving a couple of steps, the duo hears someone's presence nearby. So Suzanne immediately takes her sword out there. They both notice deadly red eyes shining from the bushes. But upon getting a greater look, that deadly beast turns out to be none other than Blurrin, who immediately jumps on Usato. This cheers up the duo. And not just Blurrin, they even reunite with Iruku, who seems pretty exhausted. The guy legit passes out after seeing these two. Looks like someone had a wild night in the forest. Surely he didn't bone Korin. While Usato is healing Iruku, the guy tells them that the bear cubs suddenly ran off while they were searching in the forest. So he did get the hint that Blurrin probably had picked Usato's scent and gave chase. That is why he started to run behind the bear. Suzanne is impressed at the bear for being this talented. But that is where she notices that Blurrin hasn't stopped. He then takes the group towards a rocky side as he is sniffing the ground. Basically, Usato gets the hint of the place, so he tells Iruku and Suzanne that this is the den where Blurrin used to live. But it is all ruins now. His parents were killed by a giant snake monster. Hearing this tragic story makes everyone emotional, so Blurrin walks back to Usato and tells him that they should leave now. It makes Usato feel so wholesome because he realizes that Blurrin had decided that his place is by his side. And just like that, Usato has finally found a home and family. Suzanne then offers her hand to lift him up as she tells him that it is time to head back to where we belong. Well, that was actually pretty wholesome, but did Iruku just leave Korin behind or something? Relief washes over the king as he sees Suzune and Usato emerge from the shadowy depths of the forest. Suzune, clearly shaken, immediately apologizes for the worry they caused. The king, however, insists the tables be turned. He deeply regrets dragging Usato into this tangled mess, even though the brave young man seems to take such situations in stride. Usato, catching a worried glint in the king's eye, worries this might reflect poorly on Rose's capabilities. In a split-second decision, he throws out a white lie. "You're right, Your Majesty," he says, forcing a smile. "Those situations are familiar. Back in my old world, you see." His voice trails off, weaving a tapestry of fabricated experiences to deflect any suspicion from Rose's past. The king studies Usato for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing his face, before offering a hesitant nod, seemingly accepting the explanation. The king is eager to hear about how Usato's rescue squad training is going, and our boy lies again and says that it's been nothing but smooth sailing. Usato is shocked by Rose's face, since it looks like he said exactly what she wanted him to, and he wonders if he has been conditioned by her on a psychological level. Usato and Rose are ushered out of the king's presence, leaving them both curious about the serious conversation brewing behind closed doors. The king's grim expression has Usato worried, and he can't help but wonder what they're discussing. Just then, Kazuki bursts in, clearly flustered. He scoffs at Usato's seemingly nonchalant demeanor, revealing his worry had him itching to charge out and find them himself. Cilia chimes in, explaining Kazuki's frantic state. Suzune, ever the voice of reason, scolds Kazuki for his recklessness, but Usato can't help but point out the irony, considering she was the one who got bitten by a pesky poison monkey in the forest. The reunion is filled with a mix of relief, exasperation, and unspoken questions about the king's private discussion. Usato tries to share the little story, but Suzune is way too embarrassed to let him. Kazuki tells them how Rose assured him that they would be fine in the forest, but Usato thinks about how what she probably really meant was that the woods are easy mode compared to her training. Kazuki is in awe of the confidence she has in Usato, but Usato thinks that he's just a pure innocent boy for taking Rose's words at face value. Usato asks that he never change and declares that only he and Rose need to be tainted. As the group scatters for a moment, Cilia swoops in to chat with Kazuki. She practically shouts about how close everyone seems. Kazuki, maybe a little flustered, thinks she's just talking about the obvious romance brewing between Suzune and Usato. But Cilia throws him a curveball, insisting she means the whole group. She can't help but notice how much fun Kazuki's having with this ragtag bunch, and it hits her, they are already friends back home. That realization makes Cilia yearn to be part of their inner circle. With a determined glint in her eye, she practically begs Kazuki to ditch the formalities that she wants to be their friend too. She apologizes for being so forceful, but her message is received, and Kazuki agrees to just call her Cilia from now on. A heavy silence hangs in the air of the castle as the king shares the results of the bandit interrogation. Minister Sergio's voice pierces the tension, revealing a chilling detail. The bandits, before encountering Usato's group, ventured through an area typically teeming with monstrous inhabitants. Yet they encountered an unsettling emptiness, a stark absence of the usual threats. Their uneasy trek was abruptly cut short when they were ambushed by a monstrous tide flooding out of the forest. These weren't just scattered creatures fleeing danger. They were a frenzied mass, a horrifying exodus pouring out of their usual hunting grounds and seeking sanctuary in the very woods they once terrorized. The frantic escape of these creatures paints a picture far more terrifying than any normal monster attack. It speaks of a looming threat so potent, so utterly horrifying, that even the most fearsome creatures cower before it. Siglas fears this desperate exodus is a sign of something truly monstrous on their tail. He believes it's an army commanded by a demon lord, a much more powerful enemy than they faced before. Unlike their previous encounter, this demon lord won't be caught off guard. This time, they'll be facing the full might of the demonic forces, a battle unlike any they ever known. The king has the man inform the others in charge of war to be ready, and he has a request for Rose as well. This is something he would normally ask of the rescue squad leader, but Rose says that she is prepared. Rose isn't oblivious to the king's unspoken request. She can clearly see he wants her to scout the demon lord's army and assess their progress. He understands the danger involved and offers an apology for putting her in such a precarious situation. Undeterred, Rose readily accepts the task. After all, with her unmatched speed, she's the undisputed fastest in the entire kingdom, so she's uniquely qualified for this mission. But the king isn't done yet. He adds another layer of responsibility, requesting her return to her old position as battalion commander. This puts Rose in a difficult spot, tasked with vital reconnaissance while simultaneously leading her troops. Rose refuses and explains that she bears more guilt than he seems to realize. The king reminds her that she was the first healer ever to be appointed battalion commander, and he wonders why she's so hard on herself. He then realizes that she hasn't forgiven herself. She explains that she has accepted the deaths of all her subordinates and the fact that no amount of healing will bring them back. The scars that have been carved into her right eye will never let her forget them. The weight of guilt sits heavy on Rose's shoulders. The king pleads with her, insisting she shouldn't carry the blame alone. But Rose is resolute. Their deaths, she argues, were a direct result of her arrogance. The scar that mars her skin is a constant reminder, a physical manifestation of her transgression. It's this very burden that drives her. The rescue squad wasn't formed to engage in battles, but to actively prevent such tragedies. The king acknowledges their contribution during the war, the countless lives saved. Yet for Rose, it's never enough. The past continues to haunt her, fueling her unwavering dedication to saving lives. The rescue squad has another purpose as well, and that is to help her find a subordinate who will not die. The king points out how that's not humanly possible, but Rose explains that that's what all the training is for healing magic, the determination to push one's body beyond its limits, and an iron will that will never bend in the face of an opponent. She has been searching for someone who has all three of these traits, and that person is Usato. He has survival instincts, adaptability, and the will to live. Rose's frustration runs deeper than just the current crisis. Usato's constant defiance and rebellious streak evoke memories of her fallen comrades. They remind her of the vibrant personalities lost, a constant ache in her heart. This is precisely why she's determined to mold him into the ultimate healer, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. However, Rose recognizes her outburst might have been a bit much. With a quick apology, she steels herself and heads towards the border, leaving a silent message for Usato to discover later. That night, the weight of the situation settles, and Usato finds himself holding a letter, a silent plea from Rose waiting to be read. It reveals that there won't be training tomorrow, and she instead wants him to deliver another letter. Rose tells the guys that she won't be there for dinner, so Usato wonders where she is. Elsewhere, the demons are building a bridge, and Emilia demands that her subordinates give their all for the demon lord. The Black Knight can't help but roll his eyes at Emilia's overflowing enthusiasm. It grates on him, but Emilia cuts him off with a sharp reminder of their current roles. He sputters a protest, pointing out their equal standing in the Second Army. However, Emilia has none of it. This isn't the time for reminiscing about old times. She's in charge now, and she expects his complete obedience. The Black Knight simmers with suppressed annoyance, but Emilia's unwavering gaze and firm tone leave no room for argument. He's forced to accept the new dynamic, a soldier now under the command of his former equal. The Black Knight begrudgingly agrees, and Emilia tells Hiruluk that the bridge will be complete in a few hours. Once it's finished, their invasion of the Linger Kingdom can finally begin. Just then, the demons find that a Linger scout has appeared, but Emilia doesn't care. By the time this scout spreads the word, it will already be too late. This lady clearly has no clue who the scout really is. Rose, in a move that would make even the strongest lumberjack wince, hurls a colossal tree trunk from an unbelievable distance, completely obliterating the enemy bridge. Emilia, upon witnessing this arboreal demolition and recognizing Rose's handiwork, explodes in fury. This mission was supposed to be a stealthy peek, not a full-blown demolition derby. Despite Emilia's ire, Rose can't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. She's bought them precious time, a window to breathe before the inevitable storm. The next day, Usato embarks on his letter delivery mission, completely oblivious to the curious stares he's attracting. Even without his blurring magic active, he can't help but feel like everyone's eyes are laser-focused on him. The weight of unseen gazes hangs heavy, a strange prelude to whatever awaits him. The old merchant offers to let him have some fruit, but he doesn't have time. He decides to come back later, and the creepy girl from earlier stares at him. Usato arrives to deliver the letter, and Yururu tries to remember his name since her brother Orga told her about him. She eventually remembers and introduces herself. Usato finds himself in the FLIR clinic, a place bustling with medical attention overseen by the eccentric duo of Orga and Yururu. Orga, with his full concentration etched on his face, is currently treating a young patient. Usato, feeling a tad out of place, hesitates when Yururu beckons him closer for a glimpse. Stifling hushed whispers, Usato leans in, mesmerized by the vibrant intensity of Orga's healing magic. The flow itself is unlike anything Usato has ever witnessed, smooth and effortless like a gentle current. With a final flourish, Orga declares the child cured, leaving the kid wide-eyed and curious about the strange observer peering over Orga's shoulder. The air crackles with a strange mix of awe and awkwardness as Usato grapples with the wonder of Orga's abilities and the peculiarity of the situation. Afterward, Earl wonders how everyone in the rescue squad is doing, and Usato explains that they're all still walking around with ugly guy faces. Usato remembers hearing that she was part of the rescue squad, but she explains that, unlike Usato, she wasn't able to keep up with the training. Reading the letter clearly bothers Orga, but he keeps it a secret. Yuru then explains that Rose put everything into training her and her brother when they first joined the squad. There was a time when Rose's dream of a student teacher fighting monsters fizzled faster than a wet firecracker. Not only did poor Yuru, Rose's first apprentice, whimper and lag behind like a lost puppy, but she also developed a paralyzing fear of Rose herself. Back then, Rose practically vibrated with manic energy, a desperate woman clinging to a flimsy raft. Thankfully, Ruru sees a stark difference now. Rose practically glows with a newfound cheer, which makes Usato, ever the cynic, raise a suspicious eyebrow. He mutters about Rose simply needing a new punching bag to vent her frustrations on, but whispers can't hide the truth. Rose is a woman reborn, basking in the joy of, well, maybe not a willing student, but at least someone who doesn't faint dead away at the sight of her. Just then, Orga informed that someone fell off a roof while trying to fix it, and 2 others were injured as well, so Orga asked Usato to come with them. When they arrive, Usato wants to hear Orga's plan, but the doctor is exhausted. They eventually start healing, but Usato thinks about how besides himself, he has only ever healed Orga and Suzune. Despite escaping with relatively minor wounds, Usato can't shake the chilling premonition of a looming war. It strikes him with terrifying clarity. If war erupts, the injuries he's tending to now will be a walk in the park compared to the carnage that awaits. The battlefield will become his new operating room, a chaotic nightmare where he'll be forced to perform life-saving treatment under a rain of steel and spells. Orga, sensing Usato's growing anxiety, urges him to stay calm. He emphasizes that Usato's power to heal transcends the limitations of location or circumstance. All he needs, Orga insists, is unwavering faith in his own abilities. Usato's hands tighten around the bandages, the weight of responsibility settling heavily upon him. He visualizes the horrors of war, the cries of the wounded echoing in his ears. Can he truly rise to the challenge, become the beacon of hope on a battlefield stained crimson? These words remind Usato that even Rose believes in him, so he starts believing in himself as well. This calls in a great deal, and he's able to heal the idiot that fell off the roof. Afterwards, the siblings compliment our boy and a job well done, and Orga even asks him to stop by sometime to lend a hand. Usato agrees and heads home. Yuru can't help but admire Usato's determined expression as he absorbs the sage advice. But the mood takes a sharp turn when Orga enters, his face etched with grim seriousness. The letter clutched in his hand isn't filled with pleasantries. It's a chilling harbinger of war. The Demon Lord's army is at their doorstep, and they've been thrust into the heart of the conflict. Usato, a stranger to the battlefield, has no choice but to confront this terrifying reality. With no past victories to draw on, he must forge a path forward fueled by an unwavering, almost superhuman belief in himself. The weight of this responsibility settles heavily upon his shoulders, a crucible that will either solidify his resolve or crumble him under the pressure. Orga is confident that Rose knows what she is doing, but he declares that he will do everything he can too. War is starting, but Orga assures his sister that everything will be okay. Usato goes to collect his fruit but wonders if a girl is lost when she stops him. This strange girl says that Usato is the only one who could see it, and that is why this is a future he can change. Usato stands there completely lost, the little girl's words swirling around him like meaningless whispers. Then, in a heartbeat, everything changes. Her eye ignites with an otherworldly glow, and Usato is plunged into a horrifying vision. Images of war erupt before him, a brutal symphony of chaos and destruction. But the true terror lies within this nightmarish spectacle. He witnesses, in agonizing detail, the dark night cutting down his friends, their faces contorted in screams that echo in the hollowness of his mind. Usato's heart explodes into a frantic drumbeat against his ribs, his breath catching in his throat. Paralyzed by the sheer terror of the vision, he struggles to even twitch a finger, trapped in a silent scream as the horrific images sear themselves into his very being. The strange little girl throws Usato a curveball, claiming she'd just done him a huge favor. Still reeling from the bizarre encounter, Usato can't help but stare after her as she vanishes into the bustling crowd. Refusing to let the cryptic message hang, Usato throws himself into a determined chase. He desperately needs answers, especially about the horrifying vision of his friend's demise. The little girl, meanwhile, observes him from a hidden corner. A weight settles on her small shoulders as she recognizes Usato as the sole individual with the power to alter the course of destiny. Back at the castle, Usato draws a blank when he frantically searches for the girl, his questions met with confused shrugs from the guards. The mystery deepens, leaving Usato to wonder what the girl meant and just what kind of favor she could have possibly bestowed upon him. Rose arrives to scare the guy away, so Usato pies him for being terrified by Rose. Usato can understand him though, as Rose manhandles him. She wants to hear more about how scary she is, but Usato manages to change the conversation into where she has been. Rose reveals that she destroyed a bridge that the demon army was trying to make while she was scouting. Usato can't resist a jab, cheekily pointing out that scouting seems like a massive understatement for whatever harrowing ordeal Rose actually went through. As expected, his flippancy earns him another playful or perhaps not so playful beatdown from Rose. Regaining his composure, Usato listens intently as Rose reveals a surprising detail. The fox girl they encountered isn't a new face. Rose saw her 2 years ago. Despite being a mere child of 12, this remarkable young girl somehow managed to navigate a treacherous world, evading the clutches of both bandits and kidnappers all the way to the capital. Her presence here, under such extraordinary circumstances, sparks a whirlwind of questions and a sense of urgency to unravel the mystery she carries. Demi-humans like her are extremely valuable to bandits since they are prized for their physical appearance. More importantly though, some even have an aptitude for rare magic. Usato wonders if this rare magic is able to show people visions of the future that they hope never happen. Rose reveals that there are rumors of beastmen who can use magic called precognition. The rarity of beast people is legendary. Even if they did exist, they'd be holed up deep within the heavily guarded beastlands, making contact nearly impossible. Rose, ever the detective, pushes Usato for the real reason behind his curiosity. Scrambling for an excuse, Usato throws out a flimsy lie about a book he read. Later that night, under the cloak of darkness, the king expresses his gratitude to Rose for the temporary reprieve she's bought them. However, Rose, ever the pragmatist, casts a wary eye towards the future. A suffocating dread fills the air, a dark premonition of the approaching demon army. Rose pierces the fragile peace with a grim warning. The reprieve, she cautions the king, is but a fleeting illusion. The demons, fueled by fury and a thirst for conquest, will inevitably return. This time, they'll come armed with a cunning strategy, determined to shatter the defenses of the PLS. The king trembles at the prospect of an even more formidable foe, yet a sliver of hope remains. With just a few precious days to prepare, a critical decision is made. The king sets the wheels in motion, readying both the soldiers and the citizenry for the inevitable clash. The looming conflict casts a long shadow, threatening to engulf the kingdom in an inferno of war. He will do it tomorrow, but he wants to speak with Suzune and Kazuki before the night is over. On their way to see the king, Usato's friends run into Cilia. Kazuki has a pretty awkward interaction with her, and after exchanging pleasantries, they part ways. Suzune wonders what happened between them, but Kazuki says it was nothing. Elsewhere, Usato finds that he can't fall asleep. The chilling vision continues to plague Leo's thoughts. If it truly depicts the future, then their fate seems sealed. Yet a glimmer of hope flickers within him. The fox girl's words echo in his mind. He is the key, the one with the power to alter this preordained destiny. But before he can delve deeper into this revelation, Usato bursts in, his voice brimming with excitement. There, standing outside, is a familiar face, Kazuki. The reunion is filled with animated chatter, both boys eager to share stories of their intense training. Kazuki throws in a bombshell. He's just had an audience with the king, adding another layer of intrigue to this unexpected encounter. They were told that the battle with the Demon Lord's army will soon begin, but they both already knew that. However, when Kazuki pictured himself fighting, he couldn't fall asleep. Panic claws at Usato, forcing a confession from his lips. He blurts out that he snuck out of the castle, driven by a fear so primal it makes his legs turn to jelly. This fear isn't new, it's been a constant shadow lurking behind him since his very first encounter with monsters. Back then, terror locked his body in place, and only a desperate last-second scramble saved him. The adrenaline rush that followed ripped the blindfold off his reality. Then he'd been playing it dangerous, the world around Usato snaps into horrifying focus. The adrenaline that surged through him moments ago has receded, leaving behind a chilling clarity. He's been fooling himself, playing a part in a deadly charade. The fantastical battles, the narrow escapes, it all crashes down on him with a sickening weight of truth. Every scrape, every surge of fear, it was all terrifyingly real. Panic claws at his throat. The approaching war isn't some distant threat anymore, it's a monstrous tidal wave barreling towards him. He sees it with terrifying clarity now. The Demon Lord's army will stop at nothing to annihilate him. Every misstep, every close call is a grim reminder of his own mortality. The weight of this realization threatens to crush him, a suffocating dread that chills him to the bone. Game of pretend. Everything he'd been through suddenly felt terrifyingly real, and the weight of that realization sits heavy on him now. He can see things more clearly now and realizes that the Demon Lord's army will do everything they can to kill him. He is terrified of this, but he is under extreme pressure because everyone is counting on him. Usato explodes the tension with a huge compliment, showering Kazuki with praise about how incredibly awesome he is. Usato admits, with a dramatic flair, that he always thought Kazuki was fearless, a superhero who never even flinched. But now, Usato sees the truth. The weight of everyone's expectations is crushing Kazuki, a monstrous burden that's pushing him down. Usato declares, throwing his arms wide, that Kazuki doesn't have to carry this giant weight forever. He can finally cast it aside and think about himself for a change. Usato, however, slams his fist on his chest and booms that he, unlike Kazuki, will be marching straight into battle, ready to face whatever comes his way. He wants to save those who will fight the Demon Lord's army. Usato is, of course, scared as well, but he has already made his decision. Kazuki reminds Usato that he was just dragged into this by accident, and now he can even die. Usato throws his hands up, confessing he totally wasn't supposed to be here. But hold on, a ton of crazy stuff has happened since that big whoops. Sure, there were bumps along the road, times that made him want to tear his hair out, but guess what? He's also met a whole bunch of amazing people who totally showed him the ropes. Now Usato's bursting to help everyone, especially Kazuki. He leans in super close, his voice dropping to a whisper, "Look, even if you chicken out of this fight, that won't change a thing. We're gonna be best buds no matter what." And just like that, Usato's words explode like a firework, blasting away all of Kazuki's doubts and leaving him feeling stronger than ever. Kazuki snaps himself out of depression and declares that he will fight to protect Usato and Suzune. He isn't sure if he can fight as a hero, but he definitely knows that he wants to help his friends. Kazuki refuses to just watch and proclaims that he will take his fear and fight in spite of it. Usato feels a wave of reassurance wash over him as his friends stand shoulder to shoulder. Together, they vow to stand as a united front, protecting everyone they care about. In that moment, Usato can't help but cringe a little at the cheesiness of his own words. But Kazuki, with a reassuring smile, tells him it's exactly what everyone needed to hear, a reminder of their strength and their bond. Usato sighs, hoping a good night's sleep will erase the memory of his awkward speech. Just then, Suzune pops up, a playful smirk on her face. It seems even the ever-serious Suzune can't resist a little chuckle at their display of unwavering friendship. Usato says that he's too tired to deal with her mockery, but she goes on to mock him even more. Usato knows that she followed Kazuki because she could tell that something was wrong, but she is glad to see that Usato took care of it. Usato admits that there is a part of him that doesn't want to fight, and Suzune wonders if he doesn't want her to fight either. Usato would rather she not, but he knows that she has already decided to live in this world. This is true, so she leaves as they all have a big day tomorrow. The next day, the king makes his announcement. It's only a matter of time before the Demon Lord army invasion, so he plans to intercept them in the grasslands. 2 years ago, they pushed back the Demon Lord's army, but he is sure that they have gotten stronger since then. It won't be easy, but he reminds everyone that they have gotten stronger as well. He points out that they have 2 heroes now, Kazuki and Suzune. They also have the help of the rescue squad who play a critical role on the battlefield. The king concludes his speech by assuring them that they will win and everyone gets hyped. Later, Kazuki goes to see Cilia. He apologizes for coming unannounced, but she is actually glad. He confirms that they will be going into battle, so she prays for his safety. He swears to protect the country, but more importantly, he promises to come back to see her. The shocked Cilia hopes he will, and the two say goodbye. Elsewhere, Yuru fawns over Blurrin. Usato lets her pet him, but warns that Blurrin might not allow it. Yuru is certain that they will be the best of friends, but she is severely mistaken as Blurrin slaps her hand away. Blurrin keeps slapping her away, so she's glad to see that a little bunny has appeared to make her feel better. This girl just can't catch a break though, as Kukuru teams up with Blurrin to push her away. Usato must then keep Orga from crushing himself to death, and they watch as Ruru continues to try and pet Blurrin. Orga reveals that she's actually really nervous since it's her first time in battle. Her erratic behavior is just her way of hiding her anxiety. Usato is then called to go see Rose, but he just now realizes that he has never been to her room before. Usato fears that she has decided to torture him, but he arrives to find that she just wants to talk. She wants Usato to explain his role on the battlefield, so he says that it's to heal the injured. With her on the front lines, that is only partly correct, as the beginning of the battle will be different. The other squad members will bring the wounded back to the rear, and they will treat them there. Along with Orga and Ruru, there won't be many wounded on the front lines at the start, so they would just be sitting ducks there. Furthermore, Rose tells him not to heal the wrong people on the front lines. Usato thinks that she means not to heal the enemy, but she calls him an idiot, as that's not what she means. There will be people that are injured but still fighting. He shouldn't try to heal these people since he will just get in their way. It will be up to Usato to use his judgment to decide who to heal at a moment's notice. Usato completely understands, and Rose finally gives him his rescue squad uniform. It was designed this way because it was made to help them stand out on the battlefield. Our boy Usato couldn't be happier, so she tells him to put it on. Rose is glad he put on so much muscle, since Usato is able to fill the suit up well because of it. Rose manhandles him once more to explain that healers are not immortal. Once they die, it's over. The one thing he can never do on the battlefield is take his life for granted. Usato explains that he obviously doesn't want to die, but this just makes Rose call him an idiot again. Talk is cheap, as Rose knows plenty of people that talk the way he does and died anyway. Being part of the rescue squad means that he must save himself too, so he shouldn't underestimate the value of his own life. Rose doesn't want to hear any self-sacrificing talk from him, or she promises to end his life before the enemy does. Usato hears her message loud and clear, and confidently declares that he will save everyone, including himself. She questions if he can really do it, but he reminds Rose that she was the one that told him to speak his ideals. Usato thinks about the vision he saw and determines that it doesn't matter if it really is the future. He knows what he must do, and that is to not let Kazuki or Suzune die. Later, our heroes head out to a camp where they will prepare for battle. It's taking a bit too long to get there for Yusa's liking, but they have to get a safe distance from the kingdom before they can fight. Usato wonders what the demons are like, so Rose explains that they look like humans, but they are stronger and have more mana. This isn't just true for their commanding officers, as even the regular soldiers are really strong. Rose wonders if he is scared, but our boy Usato points out that he knows someone way scarier. Rose can't believe some little smart mouth that came to this world by accident would turn out to be as strong as he is. Usato reminds her that she put him through crazy training to get him this way, and he admits that at first he was just trying to outdo her. Usato prepares to get yelled at for his smart mouth, but he is surprised when it never happens. This is because Rose has gotten very serious, and she remembers her old squad. A look back to 5 years ago shows when Rose was the battalion commander of the Linger Knights. The kingdom just received a report of demon sightings in the grasslands near the darkness of Linger. The king issues an order to have guards protect merchants passing through there, but he points out that the demons are far stronger than humans and contact with them should be avoided at all costs. The air crackles with tension in the war room. Siglis, his brow furrowed with worry, barks orders to his troops, preparing them for a potential demonic onslaught. Rose, her mind a whirlwind of battle strategies, meticulously plans her battalion's response. So engrossed is she in the looming threat that a young soldier, all, attempting to get her attention goes completely unnoticed. Frustration boils over as Rose finally snaps at all, the harsh reprimand barely registering over the roar of war preparations. All, shaken by the near-deadly oversight and Rose's fierce reaction, can't help but wonder how dire the situation with the demons truly is. But before she can pry any further, Rose's icy glare silences her, a stark reminder that she's just overheard a conversation far above her pay grade. Rose assures her that the situation isn't that big of a deal, and all is certain that they could handle it either way. Rose reminds her to never underestimate their enemy, and she decides that she will oversee everyone's training. Later, that's the last thing All wants, so she tries to remind Rose that she has a lot of other responsibilities to deal with. Exhaustion hangs heavy in the air as they stumble back to their base. No sooner do they catch their breath when Rose announces, with a glint of steel in her eyes, that it's time to whip everyone back into peak fighting form. The other knights, their bodies screaming in protest, immediately turn their ire on All. the culprit behind this grueling mission. Fingers point, accusations fly, and all can only whimper for mercy, met with Rose's chilling indifference. A week crawls by, each day a relentless onslaught of physical punishment disguised as training. Then, a glimmer of reprieve, new reports surface of demons attacking monstrous creatures within their own territory. Curiosity piqued, Rose is tasked with investigating. Assembling her knights, she lays out the mission: eliminate 10 to 30 hostiles. But a disquieting silence hangs in the air, a sense that this seemingly straightforward task might mask something far more sinister. All tries to encourage the bunch, but they still blame her for the intense week of training that they just went through. All tries to point out that they are stronger because of it, but this just gets them more upset. Rose knows that Kakuro would be able to detect monsters for them, but this mission is too dangerous, so she has decided that her bunny friend will have to stay home this time. A cheer erupts as Rose announces she's joining the mission. The air crackles with a renewed sense of confidence. With their legendary commander by their side, victory suddenly seems inevitable. Fear melts away, replaced by the intoxicating thrill of invincibility. Rose's presence is a shield. Any wounds sustained in the heat of battle will be instantly mended by her healing touch. All, sensing the shift in morale, seizes the moment. Her voice rings out, a clarion call to unleash their full potential. The once divided team stands united, a single, unstoppable force, their eyes blazing with newfound determination. The enemy trembles as they face the prospect of facing a team empowered by the legendary Rose, a force more unstoppable than ever before. The next morning, Rose and her knights make their way through the forest. They don't find anything on the first day, so All explains that the commander has decided that they will explore the west side of the forest. That area is pretty dangerous, so they will have to leave their horses here, but the others wonder if they should check the other areas first. All states that it's not necessary, since she has a feeling that something is on the west side. The others take a moment to think about it, but they happily agree to do as she says, as they respect her as their deputy commander. It's time for them to rest. Later, Rose decides that she will take first watch. Everyone sleeps, but Rose can tell that All is still awake. Rose offers to knock her into unconsciousness, but All has something to ask her. She wants to know why Rose chose her as deputy commander. All think she is pretty average, and there's nothing special about her. Rose has trained everyone to be the best, but All points out that she pretty much just runs errands. Rose points out that All hasn't messed up at all, so she has no complaints. All explains that she's always desperately doing her best, and she is shocked when Rose reveals that that is why she will be able to hand over the title of commander to her one day. All freaks out because she thinks the others would go crazy, and she thinks about how she used to be. All was always stubborn and never listened to orders she didn't like. No one was able to control her, and whenever anyone complained about it, she would shut them up with her strength. All was famous for being a strong knight that didn't listen to her superiors. All then met Rose, but she stayed the same stubborn person. The only difference was that Rose didn't let her walk all over her. Rose whacked her when All didn't listen and chased her down when she tried to flee past the border. Then when All tried to punch her, Rose hit her so hard that she lost consciousness along with all memories of the incident. Rose doesn't remember hitting her that hard, but All thinks she must be joking. All explains that she never wanted Rose to get the better of her. No matter how hard the training was, she always wanted to succeed and hated losing. It didn't seem like much to Rose, but it was a huge change for All. She never had someone look after her to the very end without giving up. Everyone else eventually got fed up, but Rose continued to challenge her. All thinks the other knights feel the same way. Rose understands them best, which is why she's the only one that can be their commander. All absorbs Rose's harsh words, the sting of being called a brat lingering in the air. Disappointment crashes over him. How could this be her response to his heartfelt plea? Rose, seemingly unfazed by the tension, asserts her claim with a confident nod. "I understand them better than anyone," she declares. "That's why I'm the one who should choose the next commander." All can't help but gape at her audacity. But Rose clarifies her position, dispelling the notion of randomness. "I picked you all because you never back down. You always keep your eyes fixed on the horizon, a beacon of hope for everyone around you." Her words, laced with a hint of hidden respect, hang heavy in the air, leaving All to grapple with the weight of responsibility she's placed upon him. That mentality is the stable foundation that the others stand on. As long as All just keeps being herself, the others will follow her. All seems to finally be understanding, but Rose just wants to knock the cheesy grin off her face. A shadow of doubt flickers across Al's face as Rose reminds him that the world is a river in constant flux. Change is inevitable, and dwelling on the past won't alter its course. One thing, however, remains constant, and that is Rose's unwavering leadership. There's no point in overthinking it, Rose assures him with a knowing smile. Relief washes over Al as understanding dawns. As night descends, Rose calls for rest, and Al can't help but gape in surprise. The others, previously silent observers, voice their unwavering trust in her. One by one, they acknowledge Al's strength and leadership, revealing that her words carry weight even when unspoken. In this newfound unity, a sense of belonging washes over Al, a comforting warmth against the ever-changing tides of the world. The embarrassed Al wants all the compliments to end, so she threatens to beat them all up before the demons do. The next morning, they find signs of the demons hunting monsters. Coming to Linger territory just to hunt monsters doesn't make much sense, so they wonder if they're doing it just for fun. O suspects that there must be some other reason, but they are interrupted by a loud noise. They find some demons nearby, but they are discovered instantly. Rose throws herself between the terrified townsfolk and the encroaching demons, her voice ringing out with a fierce command. "Stay back," she roars at them. Her gaze fixes on the lead demon, a hulking creature radiating malice. "What foul business brings you to our land?" The demon hesitates, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. Honestly, he grumbles, "This isn't exactly a joyride for me either. But orders are orders, and the rewards will be worth it in the long run." He slams his fist shut, refusing to elaborate. Rose's stance hardens. "Leave," she demands, her voice laced with barely contained fury. She commands them to turn around, walk away, and pretend this never happened. A twisted grin spreads across the demon's face. The air crackles with tension as the weight of his declaration settles on them. Rose knows a peaceful resolution hangs by a thread. Rose leaves all in command and explains that she won't be able to give orders while she's fighting with the demon leader. The battle begins, and Al declares that they will show the demons the power of their teamwork. The demon tries an attack, but Rose shows her insane speed and knocks him back. The demon doesn't even have time to think as Rose follows that attack up quickly and eventually sends him flying. Rose already knows that she can't land a good hit, as this demon was able to manipulate the wind in a split second. Rose leaves the rest to her knights, and she goes after the demon leader. She battles it out with him and stops his movement by launching giant trees at him. Rose shocks this dude with her relentless barrage of attacks, but he isn't even close to being done. Rose continues attacking, so the demon admits that he has never seen a human with her speed. She has no interest in talking though, and just wants to bash his face in. The demon surrounds her with his wind blades. Rose shows unwavering confidence, a stark contrast to the demon's amusement. He mocks her recklessness, a foolish human charging into a whirlwind of razor-sharp blades. But his laughter dies in his throat as Rose emerges from the storm, battered but unbroken. A gasp escapes him as he witnesses the impossible as Rose's wounds mend before his very eyes. The truth crashes down on him like a collapsing tower. This wasn't just some reckless human. This was a healer, a creature blessed with the power to cheat death itself. Her audacity fuels a surge of anger within him, but it's quickly extinguished by a well-placed punch from Rose. The demon stumbles back, finally grasping the true scope of his predicament. This healer wasn't just a walking miracle, she was a formidable warrior. Her strength, honed to an edge by countless battles, combined with her uncanny regeneration, made her a whirlwind of destruction in close quarters. He may have underestimated her once, but underestimating Rose a second time could very well be his last mistake. He acknowledges her as a monster, and they introduce themselves. This guy's name is Nero. He summons his weapon and declares that he will now kill Rose. Rose has no fear at all and proclaims that she will beat this guy down before he can get back to the other fight. Then, one dude uses the ability to put a demon to sleep. Al lands an attack as well and declares that they need to show the power of Rose's personal unit. Rose is locked in an intense battle with Nero. She realizes the danger, that his demonic sword isn't just any weapon, it's cursed. Contact with it could be disastrous. Nero lunges, but Rose barely dodges the attack. Though she avoids a major blow, the blade still grazes her face, leaving a bloody mark. But Rose isn't finished yet. With a fierce counterattack, she throws Nero back towards his companions. Taking a moment to catch her breath, Rose uses her healing abilities to mend the wound. This isn't over. She knows Nero will be back for more, and she steels herself, her voice echoing with determination as she yells at him to get back up and fight. Nero is impressed by her and her subordinates. They are quite skilled and easily the most troublesome group he has ever encountered. Disillusionment hangs heavy on Nero. He once scoffed at the notion of human heroes, dismissing them as mere figments of a bygone era. Yet Rose and her band of rebels have proven him spectacularly wrong. They stand like an unyielding wall, the biggest thorn in his side. Fury courses through him, visible in the ominous glow emanating from his demonic blade. With a voice dripping with dark conviction, Nero declares that the tide is turning. The age of human dominance over demons is on the verge of collapse. Soon, their slumbering lord will rise, a being of unparalleled savagery and cruelty. Yet one who offers demons the ultimate gifts, victory and the sweet taste of revenge. A tremor of anticipation ripples through the demon ranks as they prepare to witness the dawn of a new era, one painted crimson with the blood of their human adversaries. This guy shocks Rose when he releases a bunch of power and states that he must defeat her group so they can awaken their lord. The fight begins to turn as one of Rose's subordinates lands an attack, but she realizes that the demon isn't affected. The demon proclaims that they are simply weapons of the demon lord, and if they lose their life, they will just take them down with them. Rose senses danger and scrambles towards her companion, only to be intercepted by Nero. The demon, honoring his cruel promise, rips the life from the girl in a horrifying display of power. A wave of despair washes over the group as they witness yet another friend fall. The lifeless body crashes to the ground, a stark reminder of the brutal reality they face. The weight of grief hangs heavy in the air, threatening to suffocate them all. Rose and her companions are left reeling, their hearts pounding with a mixture of terror and sorrow. They clutch onto each other for comfort, their faces etched with the dawning realization that their fight for survival has become even more desperate. The remaining fighters watch in horror, the weight of each loss pressing down on them. It's terrifyingly clear, these demons have shed any semblance of self-preservation. A primal fear threatens to consume them, but all, ever the leader, tries desperately to rally his comrades, his voice cracking with a forced calm. But his efforts are in vain. Another agonizing scream pierces the air, another friend lost in the carnage. Nero, a cruel smile twisting his face, steps forward, basking in the chaos he has orchestrated. He boasts of his twisted strategy, revealing he's been pushing his demonic soldiers to embrace oblivion, transforming them into unstoppable suicidal weapons. The weight of this revelation slams into Rose's group, shattering their hope and leaving them facing an enemy fueled by a horrifying disregard for their own existence. Rose is furious and charges at Nero in a blind rage. But Nero stays calm and points out that she's losing control of herself. The fight intensifies, and in a vicious swing, he lands a slash across her eye. Rose, fueled by instinct, tries to mend the wound with her magic, but Nero strikes again before she can. With a chilling smirk, he explains that his sword carries a wicked curse, one that severs magic itself. The curse taints her wound, rendering her magic useless, and the deep gash throbs with a dull ache, a constant reminder of her vulnerability. Meanwhile, Rose's soldiers are getting slaughtered in the battle, and they cry out for her healing magic. Realizing the situation is hopeless, Rose tries to back out of the fight with Nero. However, he doesn't relent. The scene zooms in on Rose's perspective. With only one eye, she has completely lost her depth perception and is struggling to fight. Nero lunges for the final blow, and a wave of despair crashes over her. This is it. This is where it all ends. But just as Nero's attack connects, a blur of silver slams into him, sending him reeling. Rose's heart leaps as she yells, "All." But the joy is short-lived, replaced by a chilling realization. All, her fearless leader, used herself as a human shield. The horrifying truth dawns as Rose looks around. The battlefield is eerily quiet, her fellow soldiers lying still, their faces etched with the finality of death. The once vibrant unit, her comrades in arms, is gone, wiped out in a single brutal blow. Now Rose stands alone, the weight of their sacrifice a crushing burden on her shoulders. Rose feels terrible, since they all believed in her. They all thought that they wouldn't die on her watch and she would always come to their rescue. Rose wishes that all would have just run away, and she blames herself for being so weak. Nero declares that the deaths of their subordinates will not be forgotten, and he goes in to finish the fight. Just then, he is shocked when Rose stops his blade. She begins to beat this guy down and insults him for what he said. Rage contorts Rose's face as she accuses Nero, a demon who callously threw his own soldiers to their deaths, of being utterly incapable of grasping the true meaning of sacrifice. Each word is a furious blow, punctuated by a relentless assault that pushes Nero back with every strike. She roars, her voice laced with righteous anger, that true sacrifice isn't a glorious death, but a horrifying descent into meaninglessness. Completely dominating the fight, she pins Nero against a towering tree, her eyes blazing with a ferocious determination to end him. Despite the growing strain on her own body, the tremors hinting at exhaustion, Rose refuses to relent. This fight, this execution will be hers. She'll be the one to extinguish the spark of life from this monstrous creature, even if it costs her everything. Just then, a young Amelia appears worried about Nero, and Rose can't understand this at all. Nero is a demon that sacrifices his own subordinates, so she can't believe that there is one that wants to save him. Rose tries to stop her from rescuing him, but this girl reminds her of All. They leave, and the real All calls out to her. The greatly injured Rose makes her way to her trusty subordinate, and she tells her to stop talking so she can heal her. All explains that healing her will be impossible since she was cut too deep. Rose finds this to be true as her healing fails, but she is determined to keep trying. All tells her that it's hopeless, but she states that she has no regrets. A surge of joy ran through her as she fought shoulder to shoulder with Rose. There was a sense of unity, a shared determination amongst them all. But then, Rose's world shattered. All's words hung heavy in the air, a final plea for Rose to hold on to the essence of who she was. Even as All's life faded, Rose clung to the desperate hope of saving her friend. The battlefield stretched out before Rose, a horrific tableau of carnage. The weight of what had transpired crashed down on her, and a primal scream ripped from her throat, a howl of anguish echoing through the devastation. Later, Rose reports to the king that the demon lord will soon be resurrected. Rose states that she no longer has the right to call herself a knight because of this. She would like for him to remove her as battalion commander and revoke her knighthood. A stunned silence blankets the room as the king, despite his initial resistance, reluctantly grants the queen's unorthodox request. Later, a heavy weight settles on the queen's shoulders as she faces the grieving family of one of her fallen soldiers. Shame laces her voice as she apologizes for failing to shield him from harm. To her surprise, the family expresses heartfelt gratitude simply for the chance to see their son one last time. Their words paint a picture of a troubled young man, consumed by a relentless obsession with anime recap videos, a stark contrast to the valiant warrior he'd become in service to the queen. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the sacrifices made in the name of Judy. However, when he started serving Rose, he became a changed man. Rose returns to her empty home and cries in a corner. A month later, Siglis goes to visit her, and they discuss how the king came to see her earlier. Their goals are both the same, as they're checking to make sure that Rose hasn't decided to follow her troops to the afterlife. Rose considers it for a moment, but this just upsets Siglis. Rose tells him to calm down though, as she wasn't being serious. Rose explains that the demon's curse was only temporary, so her wounds are starting to finally heal. Siglis wonders why she hasn't made an effort to heal her eye, but she doesn't answer. Along with her thoughts, a chilling shadow falls over Rose. The jagged scar on her flesh isn't just a mark, it's a constant reminder, a branded punishment for her past failures. It whispers of the lives lost, the subordinates she couldn't protect. Guilt gnaws at her, a relentless echo of her sin. Yet amidst the darkness, a flicker of defiance ignites. All's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Rose clenches her fists, vowing to cherish the life her friend bought with her own. But vengeance, a bloody rampage against the demons, feels hollow. It wouldn't erase the past. Taking a deep breath, Rose forces down the storm of emotions. Memories, bittersweet and vivid, flood back, the camaraderie, the laughter, the unwavering loyalty of those she lost. They become a compass, guiding her out of the fog of grief. Now the question that weighs heavy isn't about revenge, but about purpose. What will she do with this second chance, this life entrusted to her by her fallen comrades? She just now realizes how weak she really is and wonders what her subordinates would think of her if they saw her now. She imagines All next to her, and All points out that they would probably laugh at her. All repeats the words that Rose told her by the fire and reminds her that things change. She must accept that so she can move forward. However, the fact that Rose led them will never change. They both say that they shouldn't overthink everything, and All is glad to see that she remembered. All reminds her of her last words, and those were that Rose should never change. The others appear to agree with All, and they remind her that Rose would punch them right in the face if she saw them acting the way she is. Rose realizes now how foolish she has been for just focusing on their deaths. Her subordinates were not like this, as they always look straight ahead with smiles on their faces. Rose snaps out of her depression and vows to never show weakness again. Her subordinates leave, and Rose promises to be someone that they can all admire. Rose removes her bandages and declares that she knows what she must do. The shadow of a colossal battle against the demon lord looms large. Driven by a fierce determination to protect lives, she embarks on a desperate mission to forge a force unlike any other. She knows countless soldiers will be thrown into the fiery maw of this conflict, but their sacrifice won't be in vain. This new force will be a lifeline, a whirlwind of salvation amidst the carnage. At least 5 warriors are needed for this daring endeavor, with 2 healers as the unshakable foundation. But the most crucial piece is someone like her, someone who transcends the traditional healer role. They need a whirlwind of healing power, a guardian angel who can dart across the battlefield, mending wounds and eliminating threats in a single breath. The fate of countless souls rests on her shoulders, and she's determined not to let them fall. This would be impossible for a normal person, but if she can find someone like that, then they might have a chance of fighting by her side without dying. Back to the present, Rose turtles Usato when she reveals that she is glad she found him. Rose points out that he doesn't even know how precious his own life is. Not just any healer can get as strong as he has by just training. Rose stares intently at Usato, a question hanging heavy in the air. She wonders aloud if the world would self-destruct if it were overflowing with healers like her. Usato, ever the sarcastic one, scoffs and throws back a quick retort. The world wouldn't just be destroyed, it'd be utterly demolished. But Rose isn't fazed. She reveals the secret behind her immense power, a self-developed technique that pushes the boundaries of healing magic field. A cruel smile spreads across the knight's face as he anticipates the carnage to come. Amelia, however, remains cautious. While the knight sees the upcoming battle against the humans as a mere formality, she knows better. The battlefield holds a sinister secret, the Reavers. These aren't your average scavengers. They're monstrous beings that target the wounded, snatching them away in the chaos of battle. Despite Amelia's warnings, the knight remains dismissive, brushing off the Reavers as cowardly creatures who wouldn't dare face a real warrior. This underestimation of the enemy gnaws at Amelia. She knows that victory hinges on a well-crafted plan, one that accounts for both the human soldiers and the nightmarish threats that lurk in the shadows. The fate of the battle hangs in the balance, and Amelia can't shake the feeling that the knight's arrogance might just be their undoing. The knight is glad to hear that they might be able to make things interesting. He doesn't care what they are as long as they make him feel alive. Sometime later, the Linger army has finished setting up camp. Wakes up and thinks about how the tension in the air is thick as Suzune stretches and throws a playful question at Usato. She's finally awake and itching to show off her new armor. Usato, still a little shaken from the events leading up to the battle, struggles to find the right words. Mustering a smile, she offers a compliment, praising how pretty the armor looks. But Suzune isn't satisfied with just aesthetics. She excitedly explains the armor's dual purpose. Not only is it sleek and stylish, but it also packs a hidden punch. The specially crafted design enhances her already powerful lightning magic, while remaining surprisingly lightweight and allowing for unrestricted movement. Usato can't help but be impressed. This new armor seems to be the perfect combination of form and function, making Suzune a formidable force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. The mood lightens slightly as they share a moment of camaraderie, a brief respite before the storm breaks. Usato assumes that she values armor over cute things. But that's not true, as Suzune reveals that she grows cacti back home. Usato doesn't consider cacti to be cute, but Suzune takes offense to that. Usato tries to get her to calm down, but is no use, so Kazuki has to be the one to save him. Suzune refuses to leave until she makes Usato hers, but Kazuki explains that Cyclus wants to see them. The pressure is on. Cyclus delivers the sobering news: the Demon Lord's army is a mere 30 minutes away. Their strategy is audacious. A surprise attack with a devastating magic barrage will hopefully cripple the enemy forces. In the ensuing chaos, Suzune and Kazuki, alongside the valiant knights, spring into action. Their primary objective is to carve a bloody path straight through the enemy ranks, leading them straight to the heart of the enemy, the general himself. But this mission holds a thrilling complication. If the opportunity arises, they are empowered to strike down the general, potentially ending the conflict in a single decisive blow. With hearts pounding and adrenaline surging, Suzune, Kazuki, and the knights prepare to unleash their fury upon the approaching enemy. The fate of the battle, perhaps even the entire war, hinges on their success. The two wait for their enemy at the border of their base, and Kazuki wonders if Suzune is worried about Usato. Suzune is impressed at how well he can read people, and she reveals that she is worried. She also feels empowered though, because Usato accepts her for who she is now. Kazuki is a gossip and would like to know more about this revelation, but Suzune would rather tell him when they return to the kingdom safely. Just then, the two of them sense something, and the demon army appears. The Linger army prepares their magic, and so do our heroes. Everyone fires their spells at the army, but they are shocked when the demons disappear. They determine that it was illusion magic, and they're shocked to find that the army is approaching from a different direction. Nearby, Rose tells her men to head out onto the battlefield. Their mission is to bring back anyone that is injured, but most importantly, they must make it back alive. As for Orga and Ruru, they will be stationed in a tent, and a kid named Ruku will act as their guard. Rose and Usato will head out to the battlefield after a while. But in the meantime, they will heal the wounded at the base. Usato is worried about his friends, but Yururu reminds him that he has to think of himself, especially since he will eventually be going to the battlefield as well. Just then, Tong already brings the first injured, and they must quickly begin healing. Usato's heart pounds in his chest as he surveys the damage. His patient lies before him, pale and shaking, with wounds that speak of a brutal attack. Panic fills the air as the patient recounts a harrowing encounter with a monstrous snake. Usato's mind races. Could it be the same creature he battled earlier? Pushing the question aside for now, he focuses on the task at hand, healing. Every ounce of his concentration goes into mending the broken body. Meanwhile, the battlefield erupts in chaos. A colossal serpent slithers through the Linger ranks, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The Black Knight, initially confident of a swift victory, watches in dismay as the human resistance crumbles. But just as he's about to relish the carnage, a searing pain jolts him. A blade protrudes from his back, a chilling reminder that underestimating even the weakest opponent can be deadly. The soldier lets out a triumphant roar, basking in the false glory of victory. But his celebration is cut short by a searing pain as a blade plunges into his back. Disbelief clouds his face as he struggles to comprehend this impossible turn of events. The imposing Black Knight, cloaked in an aura of menace, merely observes the soldier's demise with a hint of amusement. He easily dismisses the fallen man as another example of human weakness. The soldier, his life draining away, sputters out a question, a desperate plea for understanding. "What kind of monster are you?" he rasps. But the Black Knight, his motives shrouded in mystery, hesitates. Even he struggles to define his own existence. The soldier, fueled by a final flicker of defiance, attempts to crawl away, determined to warn his comrades of the unspeakable horror he's encountered. The Black Knight's patience wears thin. Witnessing the soldier's whimpering display of fear disgusts him. In a flash of cold steel, the soldier is silenced forever, a horrifying hush blanketing the scene. The knight raises his weapon for the final blow, but a commotion breaks his focus. Gerd, reeking of some foul concoction, dives in and snatches the wounded soldier away. The knight recognizes him, one of the Reavers, those twisted scavengers. A cruel amusement flickers in his eyes. This unexpected turn of events promises to make the upcoming battle far more entertaining. The knight welcomes the prospect of facing not just human soldiers, but these monstrous predators as well. The battlefield just got a whole lot more interesting. The knight considers going after him, but he gets distracted by something more interesting. Gerd returns with the kid, and the others rush to heal him. Rose determines that it's time for them to head out, and Usato is ready. Rose tells the others that they will be leaving, and she reminds the guard to protect them with his life as they leave. Rose tells Usato about an enemy she heard about. He wears black armor and uses a peculiar kind of magic. She tells Usato to be careful, and he is reminded of the Black Knight in his vision. Usato freezes up, so Rose wonders if he will be able to take someone's life. Usato insists they're here to save lives, clinging to a shred of idealism amidst the carnage. But his unwavering resolve only earns him a scathing look from a cynical Rose. Foolish, she spits, reminding him of the brutal reality staring them down. Rose, hardened by past experiences, possesses a trump card for situations like this, and she leans in to whisper a secret strategy in his ear. The details remain hidden from us, but whatever dark knowledge she imparts reignites a steely determination in Usato's eyes. With a grim nod, they split up, each vanishing into the chaos. Usato emerges onto the battlefield for the first time, and the sight that greets him is enough to curdle his blood. The ground is littered with the fallen, their lifeless forms a stark testament to the horrors unfolding around him. Usato manages to rescue someone from being eliminated, but he must quickly dodge an attack. Soon after, Rose makes her presence known as well as she rescues someone also. Usato tells the guy he saved that he healed him while carrying him, so he should be ready to fight again after getting a little rest. Elsewhere, Suzune amazes the other troops with her powerful magic, and she tells them to take any injured back to base. Suzune is clearly bothered by all the casualties, but she puts up a strong front for Kazuki. He warns that there is a powerful snake doing some serious damage, and Suzune reminds him that they must make a path to the enemy general. Dread hangs heavy in the air as our heroes lock eyes with their most formidable opponent yet, the Black Knight. Panic starts to bloom like a poisonous flower amongst the newer soldiers. This monstrous figure, unlike anything they've ever faced, radiates pure menace. The colossal snake they come to fight suddenly seems like a common garden worm compared to this behemoth. Suzune, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her, barks out orders, her voice cutting through the rising tide of fear. They need a new strategy, and they need it fast. Time itself seems to slow to a crawl as the Black Knight stands poised, his imposing presence a physical embodiment of the challenge they now face. Every instinct in their bodies screams retreat, but Suzune stands firm, her gaze locked on the knight. They may be outmatched, they may be terrified, but they will not break. Not yet. Before they can formulate a strategy, the air is torn by a flurry of spear shafts launched by the desperate, yet tragically misguided troops. The night explodes in a cacophony of shouts and clashing metal as the reckless attack unfolds. The Dark Knight doesn't seem bothered at all, and Suzune wonders if he doesn't feel any pain. The knight is surprisingly able to morph his body and push them away, so Suzune tells the troops to fall back. It's too late, however, as the troops somehow take serious damage. Suzune tries to stop Kazuki from attacking next, and the knight is impressed to see his light magic. Suzune explains that she stopped Kazuki's attack because she has determined that the knight's magic reflects attacks back to the attacker. Her assumption ends up being correct as Kazuki takes damage under his armor. Arrogance contorts the knight's face as he mocks their attempt at trickery. But his smug amusement curdles faster than sour milk when Suzune delivers a swift, brutal strike, burying her blade deep in his back. A choked gasp escapes him as he comprehends the brilliance of her plan. His power, a terrifying ability to reflect any attack, which had one crucial flaw. It only worked for attacks he perceived. Now, with the very word reflect trapped on his tongue, his seemingly impenetrable defense is rendered useless. Seizing the golden opportunity, Suzune bellows for Kazuki to deliver the final blow, the taste of victory already sweet on her tongue. Kazuki surges forward, weapon poised to strike, but a wave of icy dread washes over them both. The knight's smug grin evaporates, replaced by a flicker of a smile that sends shivers down your spine. His voice, dripping with amusement, pierces the air. This whole fight, this victory you were celebrating, so it was all a cruel play. A twisted game he orchestrated just to mess with your minds before the real fight even starts. The revelation hangs heavy, a thick fog choking the air. Your short-lived triumph crumbles to dust. A horrifying truth settles in your gut. This battle was just the opening act. You've been played, and the enemy you face is far more cunning, far more dangerous than you ever dared to imagine. Now, with the weight of that knowledge pressing down on you, you have to prepare for the true onslaught, the real fight for your survival. It causes him some serious pain, and even his healing magic doesn't stop it. Usato wonders if this means that something bad happened to his friends, but he must quickly start running again. He ends up in a bad spot, but he is rescued by the guy he healed earlier. The kid tells him where the heroes are, so Usato rushes to them and hopes that they are still alive. Back with the heroes, the Black Knight has his troops fight the weaklings, and Suzune declares that they must defeat him. Kazuki points out that there's nothing they can do since the knight is able to reflect all attacks. Suzune tells Kazuki her plan, but he thinks it's too dangerous. Kazuki is clearly terrified, but Suzune reminds him that Usato can always just heal them if they fail. The fight begins, and Suzune starts off by obstructing the knight's vision. The two heroes follow up with some attacks, hoping that the knight won't be able to reflect damage that he can't see. This isn't the case though, as our two heroes end up getting hurt from their attacks. Suzune thinks they failed, but she realizes that the attack she landed on his back wasn't reflected. Kazuki thinks she is crazy when she wants to try again, but he realizes that she has figured something out. The two try their approach again, but this time Suzune powers herself up to increase her speed. Kazuki has an idea of what she's planning to do, so he uses his light magic to blind the knight. The knight scoffs, dismissing their actions as a childish attempt at deception. But his smugness evaporates faster than a morning mist when Suzune delivers a shocking blow, plunging her blade straight through his back. A gasp escapes his lips as he realizes her cunning plan. He possessed the power to reflect attacks, but only those he could perceive. Now, with the very word reflect trapped on his tongue, his formidable defense is useless. Seizing the opportunity, Suzune yells at Kazuki to deliver the final strike, certain victory within their grasp. But just as Kazuki charges forward, a chilling realization dawns on them. The knight's arrogant facade crumbles, revealing a hint of a smirk. With a chilling calmness, he declares it was all a performance, a cruel game to toy with their emotions before the true fight even begins. He activates his reflectability, and Suzune takes some serious damage. Kazuki is in even worse shape though, as the knight has completely pierced his body. The Black Knight smirks, a predator toying with his cornered prey. He sees right through Suzune's frantic thoughts, dismantling her carefully constructed theory with a cruel amusement. He throws his head back and laughs, a dark sound that chills Suzune to the bone. Wrong, he roars. His power, he explains, isn't some mystical ability to see everything. It's far simpler, far more terrifying. He can simply choose what attack to bounce back at his enemies. And to truly twist the knife, he freely admits he let her attack land, and all to revel in her confusion and growing despair. Now stripped of her illusions and overwhelmed by dread, Suzune stands defenseless, teetering on the brink of collapse. The knight declares that no one has ever injured him, and no one ever will. Suzune begins to panic as the situation becomes more and more hopeless, and we see that Usato is still rushing to them. Suzune collapses, and she wishes she could say sorry to Usato. A look back to a simpler time shows Kazuki and Suzune complimenting each other for successfully improving the school regulations. This was the moment just before Suzune found Usato without an umbrella. Suzune thinks about how she was really lucky to meet him that day. She was really happy about being summoned to a new world, and she couldn't wait to start over as her new self. Usato was completely different though, since he knew exactly what he needed to do in order to live in this new world. In this moment, a wave of pure euphoria washes over Suzune. Kazuki finally sees her, not the fabricated version she's presented to the world for so long. This acceptance feels like a beacon of light piercing through years of suffocating darkness. It ignites a fire in her soul, a fierce confidence that as long as she has Kazuki and Usato by her side, they are an unbreakable trio, capable of conquering any mountain they face. But just as hope takes root and blossoms in her chest, the world around her implodes. We are ripped back to the harsh reality of the present. The meticulously crafted facade Suzune has spent so long building crumbles to dust. The newfound strength that surged through her moments ago evaporates completely, leaving her utterly drained and powerless. In this vulnerable state, she collapses in a heap at the feet of the imposing Black Knight, the weight of the situation threatening to crush her completely. The other demons celebrate this achievement, and the knight prepares to end Suzune's life for good. He commends her for making it fun and prepares to slice her head off. Just then, Usato declares that the knight will not do such a thing on his watch, and he unleashes a powerful punch onto the knight's face. Usato is horrified though when he realizes that he didn't make it in time to save his friends. Things start looking up when he begins to heal them, but the Black Knight is furious. She demands to know who attacked her, and Suzune notices that the Black Knight is actually a girl. She attacks our heroes, but Usato runs off with his friends. He just manages to avoid an attack from a demon, and Suzune follows up with an attack of her own. Suzune is all healed up now, and Kazuki should be fully healed soon. Suzune has something urgent to tell Usato, but they are interrupted by the Black Knight. Before the knight can get to them, Suzune manages to tell Usato everything she knows about the Black Knight. Its armor is most likely made of mana, and it can reflect any attack back to the attacker. The battlefield is a chaotic mess. Usato's desperate attack somehow connects, leaving Suzune bewildered about what strange power he just unleashed. Before they can even ponder it, the vengeful knight reappears, eyes blazing with fury. Usato groans internally, yearning for nothing more than a moment's respite. But duty calls, so the wounded soldiers need his healing touch. With a heavy heart, he steels himself for combat. Suzune watches with growing trepidation as Usato readies himself to face the knight once more, his voice a low murmur as he entrusts her with Kazuki's safety. The clash between Usato's healing magic and the knight's relentless assault promises to be a brutal spectacle, a desperate struggle between a reluctant warrior and a foe consumed by vengeance. Usato covers himself in healing magic and quickly learns that the knight's armor can morph. He decides to attack anyway, since even if his attacks are reflected back to him, he can always just heal himself. Usato realizes that his attacks aren't being reflected at all, and he wonders if the knight is just out of mana. The knight is even surprised by this, so Usato decides to go in for a two-punch combo. The furious knight demands that he just die already, but Usato just keeps fighting back. Kazuki regains consciousness, and Suzune tells him that Usato saved their lives. Just then, the Black Knight celebrates as she pierces right through Suzune's hand, but everyone is shocked when it becomes clear that the knight's terrifying attacks have no effect on him. Kazuki watches in confusion as Usato fights a seemingly endless battle. Usato's body is a constant battlefield itself, riddled with wounds that reopen with every clash, only to instantly knit themselves back together. Exhaustion seeps into his bones, yet his body refuses to stay down. It's a maddening cycle, Usato's relentless healing fueling both his own recovery and, horrifyingly, the Black Knight's. Just as Kazuki fears this bizarre stalemate might drag on forever, Suzune cuts through the chaos with a flash of insight. The Black Knight's power, she declares, must be tied to healing magic. A spark of hope ignites in their eyes. Usato seizes the opportunity, catching the knight off guard with a flurry of blows, culminating in the most devastating punch he's ever thrown. The very air crackles with anticipation as they wait to see if this gamble will pay off. Reflect isn't working because Usato's fists are enveloped in healing magic. The injuries he is inflicting are immediately being healed, so the damage that the Black Knight is taking is purely from the power of Usato's fists. His attacks aren't actually leaving any wounds, they're just extremely painful. Suzune thinks this style of fighting is the craziest she has ever seen, and it's definitely the wrong way to use healing magic. The knight can't believe she's losing like this, so she releases a massive amount of power that pushes Usato all the way back to his friends. They are still worried about him, but he assures them that he will finish the fight right now. The knight is preparing some kind of massive attack, but Usato couldn't care less. He knows what he must do, as he just needs to make sure that the knight can't hurt anyone anymore. Usato powers himself up with his healing magic, and the two opponents charge at each other. They both come to an abrupt stop as their powers collide, and they struggle to see who will come out on top. Usato pushes himself beyond all limits, eventually overpowering the knight, and he lands the most powerful punch ever seen. The war around them has stopped as everyone watches the insane fight. Usato's attack emanates a ton of healing magic, and it removes the knight's armor completely. Adrenaline pumping, Usato surveys the battlefield, the air thick with the stench of burnt flesh and demonic ichor. His victory cry echoes through the carnage, a defiant roar against the forces of darkness. He wastes no time, surging with newfound purpose as he rushes to heal his fallen comrades. Relief washes over the soldiers as Usato's restorative power flows through them, their grateful murmurs a testament to his heroism. Suzune steps forward, her voice laced with awe as she acknowledges the tide of the battle. Without Usato's triumph over the hulking Black Knight, the casualties would have been unthinkable, a horrifying testament to the demon's might. The soldiers erupt in cheers, hailing Usato as their savior, the warrior who turned the tide and brought them back from the brink of annihilation. Usato soaks in their adulation, a surge of pride washing over him alongside the exhaustion of battle. He had faced a nightmare and emerged victorious, and in that moment, he knew his legend had only just begun. Suzune shoves the bewildered soldier aside, her curiosity about Usato's ultimate healing punch burning brighter than the fires of war. Usato, still catching his breath, stammers out that it's nothing fancy, so just a regular punch infused with his healing magic. He flashes back to a hushed conversation with Rose, remembering her secret technique. A mischievous glint twinkled in her eyes as she explained how to channel his magic into a punch, knocking out enemies without causing lasting harm. But the real kicker? They'd feel every bone-jarring impact even as they healed, a punishment far worse than a simple wound. Usato, ever the optimist, is ecstatic about this humane way to stop the enemy, completely oblivious to the sadistic genius Rose just unleashed upon the battlefield. The idea is that you cover your punch in healing magic so that the attacks don't eliminate the opponent. The attacks will heal the enemy as he punches them until he eventually knocks them out. They aren't injured, but they feel the pain and the impact. This way, he can immobilize an enemy without hurting them. Usato thinks it's pretty awesome, and Suzune realizes that he's really starting to fall under Rose's influence. Suzune thanks him for coming for them, and Usato explains that he was just helping his friends. The giant snake has moved to the front lines, so Suzuman decides that this is where they will have to fight next. Usato plans to go with them, but Rose demands to know what happened. Rose is surprised to hear that Usato already took care of everything and commends him for saving his friends, defeating the knight, and dealing a massive blow to the enemy's morale. The battlefield, once a cacophony of clashing steel and demonic shrieks, has fallen silent. Victory hangs heavy in the air, but the soldiers aren't celebrating. Usato staggers back to camp, his lungs screaming for air. Every ragged word he forces out is a hammer blow, etching a horrifying tableau onto their minds, monstrous demons tearing through their ranks, friends falling like wheat before a scythe. The crushing weight of their fallen comrades hangs heavy in the air, a suffocating cloak that chills the remaining soldiers to the bone. Huddled together for warmth and courage, they swear not just to survive, but to make their friends' sacrifice count. Every precious breath is a gift, every heartbeat a stolen moment they cherish. With tear-streaked faces and choked goodbyes, Usato throws himself back into the fight, a lone warrior carrying the hopes and memories of his fallen squad on his blood-stained shoulders. The battle rages on, a whirlwind of steel and fury. And Usato fights with a desperation fueled by grief, determined to honor the lives lost and carve a path through the enemy for those who remain. Rose mutters under her breath, a flicker of worry betraying her stoic facade, but quickly masks it with indifference. Meanwhile, at the enemy camp, news of the Black Knight's utter annihilation sends shockwaves through the ranks. Amelia, their leader, pales in disbelief, the enormity of this setback threatening to crumble their entire operation. She refuses to believe that someone overcame her magic and is even more startled when she learns that it was someone from the rescue team. She assumes that it was Rose, but she is told that it was someone else. Amelia can't believe that there's another person like Rose, and she decides that they must withdraw. She considered going out to fight herself, but that would leave their base vulnerable, and the enemy still has Siglis on their side. Hiruluk prepares to go get their giant snake, but he is stunned when he sees that the heroes have beaten him to it. They refuse to let Usato down, and they prepare to eliminate it. Back at camp, Usato is hard at work healing soldiers, but he must tell one of the meatheads that he isn't messing around. Everyone is busy healing, and they're all then amazed when they see the massive attack by the heroes. Usato and his crew are on their knees, gasping for breath after a brutal fight. The monstrous snake lies defeated, its immense body finally still. Cheers erupt as relief and victory wash over the weary warriors. Rose, ever sharp, cuts through the euphoria. They're pulling back, she announces, gesturing towards the retreating enemy forces. Usato, adrenaline still coursing through him, considers charging after them. Rose throws him a withering look. "Don't be a fool," she snaps. "They outnumber us 10 to 1. We won this round, but the war's far from over. We need to regroup, heal the wounded, and get stronger. Next time, we need to be even more ready." Usato, brought back to reality, can't help but admire Rose's steely resolve. Though they celebrate their hard-earned victory, a sobering reminder hangs in the air. This is just the beginning. Rose declares that they won this battle because Usato managed to save the heroes. Usato is humble as always since he is sure that Rose would have come if he didn't. But this is not the case. Rose lays it out straight. If it wasn't for Usato, things would have been disastrous. They might have all been goners, and the battle itself could have been a total loss. This is the first real praise Usato gets from Rose, a compliment that acknowledges him as a valuable member of the rescue squad. Usato absorbs this moment, a wave of memories washing over him. He's been through the ringer, faced countless challenges, and poured his heart and soul into getting to this point. This single sentence from Rose holds the weight of all that struggle, a long-awaited recognition of his efforts. Tears well up in Usato's eyes, and he doesn't even know why. Rose sees a childlike vulnerability in him that she hadn't noticed before. Usato confesses that he was horrified on the battlefield. The air crackles with demonic energy as monstrous figures tear through the battlefield. He witnesses death erupt around him in a horrifying symphony of screams and shattered souls. Yet amidst the carnage, a single ember of hope flickers within him, the memory of Rose. Because of her, he's become a whirlwind of defiance, a one-man shield against the demonic tide. Every life he saves, every monstrous form he cleaves in two, is a testament to the strength she awakened within him. Fear, a cold serpent, coils around his heart, but he pushes it down. This newfound power, a wellspring he never knew existed, surges through him, fueled by his gratitude for Rose. But a shadow flickers across her beautiful face. She speaks of others, brave souls who once stood beside her, echoing his own fierce determination. Now their voices are nothing but echoes in the halls of her memory, a chilling reminder of the terrible cost of this war. Usato hasn't budged. Seeing him still there, Rose finally breaks the tense silence. "You did good," she says, her voice gruff but softer than usual. A weary smile spreads across Usato's face at the unexpected praise. It's clear every ounce of his energy went into making it back to her. Just as quickly as the smile appears, though, his eyelids flutter close and his head lolls to the side. Relief washes over Rose. He's alive, that's all that matters right now. The anger and worry that had been simmering beneath the surface all melt away, replaced by a deep well of pride. Usato may be out cold, but he never gave up. He pushed himself to his limits to get back to her, and that's something she won't ever forget. With a gentle hand, she helps him settle into a more comfortable position, a silent promise hanging in the air. He can sleep now, she'll take care of everything else. While lying down on Blurren, Ken is telling his story about being called to the castle. He tells him that he never stood in front of such a huge crowd, and that made him feel nervous. Not just that, Ken also got kind of spanked by the captain, but enjoyed it too. Explains how submissive a man he is. Back in his world, he never got any kind of award. Well, what Ken sees more is that Blurren put on some fat while he was away. Then Gomel shows up and tells Ken that some guy from the castle is asking for him and tells him to be quick to come. If he is a Sigma male with low self-esteem, then of course he would come quick. As Gomel is leaving, he stops and turns to tell Ken to watch himself when going through town. That, of course, leaves Ken confused as heck, but Gomel just smirks and leaves. Oh well, Ken finds that out after a while because the entire town surrounds him and everyone is praising him. He panics and tells everyone to calm down while they want to show him how grateful they are to him. Anyway, he escapes and reaches the castle with a basket of fruits in his hands. Ark attends to him at the castle gates and says that he is not surprised that the entire town gathered around him after what he did on the battlefield. Then, Ark thanks Ken for saving the lives of his fellow knights. Behind them stands Thomas, hearing their conversation. Ken asks Ark to protect him because he is a great knight, and Ark blushes, which points to the fact that he could be a secret gay soldier. Thomas pops up and says to Ken that he has a great eye since Ark is a great knight, with his sword skills and magic too. Ark blushes again and says that he is thankful to them for thinking that way. Later, Ken stands in front of the king, who asks for his help once again. The king points to Siglis, who will tell Ken what to do. Siglis then tells Ken that they need him to assist them in interrogating the Black Knight he caught. Ken wonders if they are talking about the one he punched, so he asks if she resisted during the questioning. Well, she did not, but on the contrary, it was clear that she was not loyal to the Demon Lord and was willing to team up with them instead. Further, Siglis says that she has yet to share more important information. The information regarding the type of magic her commander uses, but she has only agreed to talk if they meet her demands, and she wants to meet Ken. Then Ken is being taken to her along with Suzune to protect him. Ken asks why there is a need to protect him when the Black Knight is behaving now. Because Suzune got beaten up last time too. It seems like Ken does not need her protection. But Ken asks, as they are walking, why he was able to fight her. Siglis tells him that the Black Knight wields dark magic. Basically, dark magic and healing magic cancel each other out. That means that the healing magic he cloaked with his fist did not work. He suddenly stops and asks Siglis if anyone treated her after that. Siglis tells him that she has put her black armor back on ever since she regained consciousness. He runs to her because he knows what could have happened to her. Ken sees her sitting in her cell. She sees him as he stands against the railings. He knows that she took all his punches head on, and his punches are very strong too, so that means she could be in very bad shape. She agrees to it but says that it is fine because this is what pain feels like. Suzune tells Ken that she is a masochist, to which he tells her to keep her mouth shut. Anyways, Ken asks why she wanted to see him, and she says that she wanted to see the guy who put her on such a pitiful stage. A very shocking thing he asks Siglis is to be put inside the cell with her. Siglis is shocked, but Ken says he wants to save her life. Then Ken steps into the cell and asks for her hand to be placed in his. After a bit of hesitation, she places her hand in his hand, and Ken begins to heal her. She panics and asks him to leave her, but he holds her and tells her that her death will leave a terrible taste in his mouth. Ken keeps on healing her, and she feels so warm. Then he asks after it is done to let go of his hand, to which she says to hold on a bit longer because this is the first time she feels like this. The Black Knight starts crying, and Ken wonders if he could never tell her no and holds on to her for longer. Later on, Rose stands with Ken in an open area and tells him that it has been a while since she trained him. Well, the kind of mommy she is, I would definitely take her training and torture too. Then Rose tells him that the Demon Lord's army will attack again, so there are things he needs to know before that. Ken says that he knows that and looks at his hand while saying that he does need to power up his healing magic because he still can't heal diseases or anything complicated. But Rose tells him that they will take one step at a time. Now Rose tells him that she will punch him faster than he can even react to it. So he needs to dodge them. He begins running away while she chases him so that he will literally explode like a slime if he takes any of her punches. Very strictly, Rose says to him that he relies too much on healing magic, but this is how she trained him. Well, now it is time for the next step. Ken screams as she holds him by his collar to save him. Then Rose says to him that he can't heal himself if he is wounded because healing magic does not work on cursed wounds, so she will teach him how to dodge. Rose says she will start soft, but Ken is panicking as if he is a girl. Well, that makes Rose a bit angry, and he sees that and says sorry right away. How men should be, licking the toenails of mommies. Then Rose flips him into the air as if he is some Turkish ice cream, and the training begins. She punches him, and he goes flying into the woods and gets unconscious. As Ken opens his eyes, he thinks that it was just a bad dream because there is no way that he could be punched in training. Oh well, that certainly was not a nightmare, and Rose tells him that they are going to train more. That went on for 3 days, and after the training, he visited the Black Knight. He keeps telling her about his training and how Rose punched him and landed some critical blows. Then Ken asks what she is up to, and she says, why is he asking her that when it is not up to her? She begins asking him a question but stops and tells him to get lost, hiding herself in her black armor. Later, the king calls in Rose, whom he entrusts with 2 things. On the other hand, Ken walks to Celia and sees that Kazuki is training. Celia tells him that he has wanted to improve his magic ever since he came back from the battle. Even though she tells him not to push himself too hard, well, Ken gets jealous because that is not how his training went. Celia notices that and tells Ken that he sure is making a scary face. Then Kazuki sees Ken and sits down with him near the fountain. Kazuki asks Ken if he heard that Ken made the Black Knight cry. Celia says that Suzune also says that there is something triggering about the Black Knight's flag. Well, Ken simply says not to trust Suzune. Then Celia smiles and says that the king trusts Ken a lot, and they would have lost the battle if Ken had not helped. He blushes, and then Kazuki also gets back to his training, and Ken leaves. Then Ken is thinking about what will happen to the Black Knight as he walks. On the other hand, the Black Knight was thinking about him as well, and that is when Rose shows up, looking scary as hell. The Black Knight asks why Rose is here to see her. Rose simply says that she came here because of the king's orders. Then Rose tells her that she has 2 options, to live here forever, or the other option will cause Rose a heck of a lot of work. That makes the Black Knight sweat, but she chooses the second option. Well, it was simply that Rose beat some sense into her and made her a decent demon. Rose says that the king is never in favor of killing his captives, and he realizes the Bond demons share too, because killing her would mean that the other demons would get angry too and come back for some revenge. Then Rose locks in the Black Knight's magic, and she is so surprised to see that because it is so rare. Rose gets up and says that she will stay here for a while because the people of the kingdom are busy. Since the king left the Black Knight under the care of Rose, whatever happens to her is up to Rose. Coming back to Ken, he is making Blurren lose some pounds that your fat best friend probably needs to do too. Then Ken sees Rose carrying the Black Knight and asks why she brought her here. Well, Rose wants to knock some sense into her as well, training her the same way she trained Ken. Well, Ken really did not expect that to happen. The Black Knight wakes up too and sees Ken sitting near her. Later at night, Ken enters Rose's office and tells her about the Black Knight. Rose says that it still seems like she does not know what she is in for, but Ken assures her that she will know once they start talking. Then Rose tells him what the king told her, which concerns Ken too. The king plans to seek the aid of the other countries to fight the Demon Lord, and he will be sending envoys to different countries. The envoys the king chose are Kazuki, Suzune, and Ken. Well, Ken panics upon hearing that, but the king chose him because he trusted him. The next day, Ken is out on the streets, and 2 girls come to him to wish him good luck on his journey. Ken knows that the people of this kingdom are really kind, and going on that mission will protect these people. he gets approached by Suzune, and she is excited to see him, as if she is a fan of him. Suddenly, he sees the little fox girl he has been seeking, runs to her, and picks her up in her arms like a little toy. The fox girl asks him to heal her mom while she is up in his arms as a payback. Usopp is holding up a cute fox-eared girl. The girl looks at him with hopeful eyes and tells him that she wants him to save her mother, because he is the only one who can help her. At this, Usopp gets confused, hence he asks her what she means, whereas Suzune starts gushing over the adorable fox-eared girl. However, none of them pays any attention to her, and this makes Suzune angry. Funnily, Usopp scolds her for acting like an attention seeker. Someone is feeling a little grumpy today. The girl then introduces herself as Amako, and she is a fox beastkin. Further, she tells the boy that she wants to talk to him in private. On the other hand, a white-haired girl is running, and she is completely out of breath. In a race between her and the turtle, my money will be on the turtle. The girl gets exhausted and drops to the ground. Hence, she lies there thinking that dying will be better for her than this. Rose suddenly appears behind her and punches her hard. After that, she scolds her for stopping midway. At this, the girl springs to her feet and runs from there like the devil was behind her. Meanwhile, Usopp and Suzune are sitting inside the house with Amako. Funnily, Suzune is still fascinated by the girl's beauty, and she is dying to rub her fox-like ears. That's quite creepy behavior. Usopp becomes embarrassed by the girl's behavior. Hence, he asks Amako if she is fine with Suzune being there. At this, Amako states that she is fine with her and she is sure a hero like her would keep her secret. Suzune agrees to keep her secret without missing a beat. Meanwhile, Usopp realizes that this girl knows about Suzune being a hero. Surprisingly, Amako informs him that she knows his name and that he uses strange healing magic. Funnily, Usopp becomes embarrassed and admits that his magic is weird, but still, it is useful. The boy then tells her that there are many things he wants to ask her. Hence, the first thing he asks her is why she showed him the vision where Senpai and Kazuki were defeated by the Black Knight. Surprisingly, Amako replies that she had to show him that. Otherwise, the heroes would die and their kingdom would fall. Further, the girl reveals that she has magic that lets her see the future. And she had that vision a year ago. Hence, she couldn't abandon the people who took care of her here. And most importantly, she can't lose Usopp after she finally found him. At this, Usopp asks her if she has been looking for a healer. Amako says yes to him and tells him that that's the reason she left the Beastkin territory. She then becomes sad and tells him that she wants to save her mother. It appears her mother hasn't opened her eyes in a long time, and that's the reason Amako has been looking for a healer. She left the Beastkin territory because only humans can be born with healing magic. But sadly, there were no humans who could help her. And then by some luck, she found Usopp in this kingdom. After hearing all this, Usopp becomes curious and asks the girl why she didn't ask Orga and Yururu at the clinic, because they would have helped her if she explained her situation. Amako tells the boy that she can't take them with her because they can't fight. Suzune thinks about it and asks her why she didn't ask Rose then. Funnily, Amako thinks that Rose is scary, and also she already has a vision of Rose rejecting her. That's why she didn't ask her. And that only leaves Usopp. Amako knew the moment she saw him that he would come with her, because she can feel he is a kind person. That's why she showed him the future. After this, she requests Usopp to come to the Beastkin territory and save her mother. Usopp feels conflicted by her request, since he has become an important figure in this kingdom now. Nonetheless, he agrees to help the girl. Hence, he turns towards Suzune and tells her that they have to deliver missives, so while traveling, he can stop by Beastkin territory and help the girl's mother. Suzune agrees with the boy's plan. Hence, Usopp informs Amako that he has to ask King Lloyd about this. But first, he needs to check with his captain. Thus, he stands up and tells the girl to wait for her. Funnily, he tells Amako that if she feels threatened by Suzune, then she can yell for help. At this, Suzune gets offended. After some time, Usopp tells all this to Rose. Thus, Rose isn't looking happy and she decides to notify the Majesty about this matter. Apparently, oracles of time are responsible for predicting calamities and imparting that knowledge to the Beastkin. And if one of them has wound up in their kingdom, then it could lead to war with Beastkin territory. Usopp realizes that the situation is way more serious than he thought. Whereas, Rose informs the boy that his wish to go Beastkin territory might be possible because of their current circumstances. Hence, Rose tells the boy to wait. After some time, Usopp comes back to Amako. Surprisingly, the girl already predicted that they would have to wait for a while. Usato was surprised that the girl already predicted what he was about to tell her. Hence, he reassures her that it won't take much time and the king will think of something. Thus, Hamako stands up to go home and she says thanks to the boy. Usato feels grateful to the girl. Thanks to her, he was able to save Kazuki and Senpai. Later at night, the boys eagerly dove into the food, whereas the white-haired girl sits there motionless without eating the food. After a moment, Usato comes there and tells the girl to eat food, otherwise tomorrow she will pass out from hunger. However, the girl is still pouting and tells the boy to just throw her back to the prison, because she doesn't get why they are setting her free. Usato just smiles at her and gives her a diary that he bought today. He then tells her to write down what she does each day and how she feels about it. It will make things a little easier for her. The girl becomes flustered by his sweet gesture. After that, they both start eating their food. The next day, the girl decides to use the dairy Usato gave her. On her second day at training, she ran so much that she couldn't even move. But Rose, like a devil, always follows her behind and kicks her off when she stops to take a rest. On day 5, Usato ran with them, but the girl noticed that the boy didn't get tired from all the running. Hence, the girl concludes that the boy isn't a complete human. On day 10, the girl decides to ditch training to take a peek in the forest, to know where the sound was coming from, which she keeps hearing. Thus, she hides behind a tree and sees that Usato has been training with Rose. Their training is so intense that a normal human would have been dead in seconds. But here Usato is dodging Rose's deadly attacks. Funnily, the girl becomes horrified to see their fighting. At that moment, she concludes that Usato is not a human. Rose commands the girl to keep training under Usato's order. After some time, the girl and Usato are sitting together. The boy knows it's a little late to ask her this question, but he wants to know, therefore he asks her what's her name. He is more foolish than I thought, but still, he is cute. After a moment of hesitation, the girl reveals that her name is Felm. The boy doesn't say much about it. After that, Blurren comes there and Usato goes away to run with him. Meanwhile, Felm is burning with anger after getting no attention from Usato. She then runs fast and leaves the boy behind. Usato warns her not to run that fast, but she ignores it. After some time, she collapses. Hence, Usato heals her and after that, she falls asleep. Later at night, they all are eating dinner and Usato informs Rose about Felm's condition. Rose orders the boy to take her meal to her later. After some time, Felm is roaming in the house and trying to find food. In this process, she hears Usato and Rose's voices. Hence, she eavesdrops on their conventions. Rose tells the boy to take Amako with her to see the king. Further, she informs the boy that the details of his journey to deliver missives have been decided. And she is sure a decision has been made about his request too. The next day, Felm secretly leaves the house. Meanwhile, Istao and Amako go to the castle to meet the king. Surprisingly, the king says thanks to Amako for saving their kingdom from certain doom. After that, he tells Istao that they have made routes for his journey by keeping his request in mind. Thus, after visiting various nations, they will have him deliver the final missive to Mielark. This is a water nation built upon the great river that runs through the land. Far beyond its opposite shore is Beastkin territory. In this way, he can take Amako with him and go to Beastkin territory. At this, Usato and Amako become happy. After that, Welsi informs them that they will be visiting 4 different territories. In Suzune, Hazuki, and she will accompany them to Lukvist. After that, Usato and Amako will part ways with other knights. After some time, they meet Aruku and request him to accompany them on their journey. After some hesitation, Aruku gets ready to go with them and vows to protect them with his life. After that, Usato states that he wants to take Blurren with him. On the other hand, Felm is trying to escape, but Rose finds her. Apparently, Rose knows the girl has overheard their conversation. Apparently, Felm is worried about Usato. That's why she was planning to follow him. But Rose informs her that Usato is a healer like her and he won't get hurt easily. After that, she kicks the girl and brings her back to the dormitory. In the evening, Usato meets Felm and tells her that he will leave tomorrow for the journey. The girl doesn't know how to express her feelings. Hence, she kicks the boy and runs away from there. After that, Rose comes there and tells the boy that many people consider healing magic weaker than other types of magic, and if he meets someone like it, then he is free to beat him to a pulp. She knows this journey will change the boy in some way. Hence, Rose puts her hand on the boy's shoulder and tells him that she expects great things from him. After that, she walks away from there. Usato gets emotional after hearing this. He really admires Rose as his teacher, and he enjoys living in this world with them. The next day, they bid farewell to everyone and leave for their journey. Usato is excited for this new journey and to face the new adventures.